Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Studio City Neighborhood Council regular board meeting for June 21st. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. Can we call the roll?
Kim Clements. Here. Dean Cutler.
Here.
Fiona Duffy. Absent. Randall Free. Absent. Ira Gold. Absent. Jeff Hartwick.
Here.
Julie Houlihan. Absent. Scott Mendel.
Present.
Cheap Meehan.
Here.
Brandon Marino.
Here.
Richard Nitterberg.
Here.
Rancero. Here. Adele Slatter. Absent. Adam Summer. Absent. Alexa Steinberg. Here. Ivy Velasco. Present. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Moving on, item 2, President's comments. Announcement only. A reminder to those attending, during public comment, you may hear colorful language that some might find offensive. The SCNC has no ability to control or regulate the content of speech that is protected under the First Amendment. Board members are reminded not to cut off, interrupt, or otherwise engage with stakeholders during their allotted time. And just so everybody knows, this is our last regular scheduled board meeting of this term, but we do have another board meeting on Monday, a special, to deal with the Harvard Westlake River Park project. So we will all be back on Monday. So I'll refrain from the farewells because we'll be seeing each other next week. On to item 3, Abby Velasco.
The minutes, do we have any objections for the minutes? No? Okay. Attendance, do you have a copy of that? And then also certificates. The new term is beginning and some of you have already submitted your certificates, so thank you so much. Yay, now you can put them on your refrigerator. Thank you so much. And if you are completing your certificates for next term, please send them over to me. The intention is just to help Scott or whoever the president is and the new secretary, and I'll transfer those certificates with data to the new person. That's all. And also, if I may, I created a little presentation for you guys, so it's not really a farewell, but we are going to dim the lights. Oh, well, maybe not right now. Okay, sorry. This one moves.
Should we move out of the way?
Maybe in a little bit.
Wireless back the line, the whole thing.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Abby Velasco, and it is an honor for me to be here with you at our last board meeting, 2021-2023. Yay! And I can't help but to be reflective. During these 2 years, we had some really good moments, but also we had some challenging moments. But what kept us going, it's the love that we have for our neighbors, for Studio City community. So with that said, as your secretary for this last term, I would like to thank the entire board for being so awesome. Thank you for your hard work, diligence, and just for being yourselves. As the secretary, as the Cultural Affairs Vice Chair, I would like to thank everyone's effort for the movies in the park and all the events that we have put together. Brandon Marino, thank you so much for everything you did. Thank you for sharing your creativity and ordering swags at the last minute because we're working super fast. Richard Nitterberg, thank you so much for going shopping with my dear friend over here. I truly appreciate going shopping with Barry, and that leads me to Scott. Thank you so much for filling in for Richard, and also thank you for letting us borrow your credit card and car to purchase the goods. Kim, thank you so much for your diligence with paperwork. You know, the paperwork, you all don't see it, but there's so much going behind the scenes. And one thing that I appreciate about Kim is that as soon as I will forward the package to her, she will work on it. And I actually had to ask her, please don't work on it right now, enjoy the holiday. So thank you so much for your diligence. I truly appreciate it, and the entire community also appreciates your hard work as a treasurer.
You do a great job with that, the paperwork yourself.
Thank you, but I also need someone to I need a second pair of eyes because I'm not perfect. And Jeff, thank you so much for just being yourself and always filling in and how can I help? What can I do? Where do you need me at the movies in the park? And just, I'm sorry. I won't move. I stay here. Why did I get closer and I can't? So thank you so much, Jeff. Scott Mandel. Oh, Scott, thank you so much for being so awesome. You're a true leader. Thank you so much for everything that you do, not only with the board, but also with cultural affairs. You're always there, and I don't know where you get all these extra hours. So thank you so much. Chip, thank you for being so awesome and always going above and beyond. And what can you do with the movies in the park? And for your charisma as well. Thank you. Let's see, Ren, thank you so much for coming over to Movies in the Park and always sharing a smile. And I'll try to stay here. Thank you, everyone. Am I missing someone? No, I think also, help me out here.
Deezer.
Dean, oh, Dean, you're wearing black, so. Yes, thank you so much for all the work that you did, also with Movies in the Park and other events that we had. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work and diligence. So also, thank you to the partners. CD4 is here. Yes. Thank you so much for all your work and your support. It is truly, truly appreciated. And also to all the partners, thank you so much. And with that, let's reminisce some good times, shall we?
No. My whole place.
Hopefully I will.
Well, technology.
So she's not.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way.
And one person that I also forgot to thank was Terry. I don't see her, but Terry, I think this is being recorded, so thank you so much for everything that you did with Movies in the Park, advertising it, and just helping out. Thank you for being so fabulous. Walker, thank you so much. You were a great help. Thank you so much. And Barry, thank you, thank you. Thank you all. It's been a true honor being here with you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Abby. That was great. We're moving on to item 4, and I think Jeff is going to top what you just did.
If Jeff, we should put the first slide.
Tough act to follow, certainly. I'd like to report that all the CISs and requests for action have been filed with the website, the CIS website, also disseminated to the different officials. We are missing some from sustainability from March, though. I haven't received them yet, so waiting on those. But other than that, everything's been filed and up to date. Thank you.
Item number 5, Kim, treasurer report.
Okay. As we wrap up this year, I'll just talk about, we are going to have excess, it's going to be a bit in excess of 10,000. We're going to only carry 10,000 over. But I just wanted to remind people that part of the reason that we have such a steep amount, we had the election and we kept having to hold monies aside for that, but it's also, it becomes a little hard to gauge unless I am following every dollar that is spent. Because what I normally keep in mind and what it gets budgeted essentially is a certain amount, like if we say for Movies in the Park, $2,500, and we only spend $1,600. We have $900 that has been, earmarked for it, wrapped up, and even if the event has passed, we can go back in and figure out just exactly what was spent, except it starts to get a little convoluted, because you don't know, sometimes some of the printing and stuff can go to outreach budget rather than the movies budget. So anyways, it gets a little difficult to juggle precisely on those things. As far as, I guess where I'm going with this is just the closer we can be on requesting approval for an amount up to, the better it is. Because even if we say Zoom licenses are, for instance, $400, we have them budgeted at $500 just in case. There's an extra $100 there that's wrapped up that probably doesn't need to be. So the tighter we can be, the better we can ahead of time get a quote, say on some printing or whatnot, the less we will have earmarked for down the road, and we will know is definitely available, because in order to get more for, let's say, that printing job, you're gonna have to come back to the board. So we wanna make sure that we can run smoothly and allot enough or have enough approved. But I noticed, like the Movies in the Park, we'll ratchet that back in the next term, because there was a lot left over for each of those. So there was a lot wrapped up in those events. There were 3 of them, and so there was a lot that was earmarked that didn't need to be. So anyways, the good news is we can carry 10,000 over. No, it was great that did I say something? You two looked at each other funny.
No, she's thinking, how do I spend more money? She's thinking, it's like, I should have had animals.
No, the event was fantastic. It was, you know what, and the fact that we could team up and have co-sponsors made then what came out of our budget, was less. And it was wonderful, wonderful events, all of them. So.
And if I may add on a little bit, Kim, one of the reasons I think it was left over, it's because, especially in the recent months, we are getting noticed a little bit more, and now we're partnering with more community members, so they're able to sponsor. So that is great, because we're spending not necessarily less, but now we can do more events, because initially we were only doing 2 Movies in the Park events, and now we're doing 3. So, and they're getting bigger, and so.
No, well, we have a lot of money that got earmarked that it wasn't used. Luminaria came in less, again, great, coming way under budget. I'm just explaining that if we can tighten some of that up a little would be great. We've got money set aside for, t-shirts, which we still have under $1,000. So things like that. There's a bunch of things that are out there, and in fact, in the current budget, which I'll get to in a minute, but you know, you do have to pad things a bit. So, for instance, we have 11 regular meetings in the year, and I added in 2 more because we would have probably a couple special meetings. So, does it have to be? Do we have to have that? You know, be that liberal? Maybe not. But, anyways, just food for thought when requesting dollars. The tighter we can be on it, the better. The more we will know for certain that we have left over. But of course, the election was a big question mark for some time, and it wasn't until about April or end of April that we really knew what we were spending. So anyway, so with that said, I just wanted to give you a preview of where we were and going into the next fiscal year. So I'll go on to the first motion. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the monthly expenditure report for May 2023. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Thank
Who was
you.
second? Who's second?
Jeff.
Thank you.
We'll go to public comment now on the motion you just heard. Anyone from the public want to speak? You have 1 minute. Once you start speaking, who's our timekeeper?
All I wanted to say to number 5 was that had we had an election, we likely we'd only have 10,000 now, which we can hold over, and we wouldn't be giving the other 10,000 back to the city, which we'll never see again, so.
It's not that much. It's about 13,000.
And we can keep 10?
10, correct.
So we're only losing 3,000?
Correct.
Okay, that's
Still,
better
it's-
than 10.
But Scott was trying to spend he wanted to leave with 0 carryover. He would have been happy with that. So I like the cushion of, no, we're not losing it, no.
No, I just hate to see money going back that we could have done something to better the community with. So if it's only 3, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Any other public comment on this particular motion? No? Board? Comments, questions? None? Vote.
All right.
Oh,
we're-
wait, Chip, you
Didn't we have 10,000 to the good that was a rollover from last year? So you basically spent to the nickel for this year.
Pretty much.
Okay. It's even better than you thought. Nice work.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay, we're voting item 5A. Kim Clements,
Yes.
Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Fiona Duffy, absent. Brenda Freed, absent. Ira Gold, absent. Jeff Harwick,
Yes.
Julie Houlihan, absent. Scott Mandel,
Yes.
Chick Meehan,
Yes?
Brenda Marino,
Yes.
Richard Nitterberg,
Yes.
Rencero,
Yes.
Adele Slatter,
Yes.
Adam Summer, absent. Alexa Steinberg,
Yes.
Javi Velasco, yes. Motion passes.
Great. So B, motion of the Board of Studio City Neighborhood Council approves the 2023-2024 budget. This is to allow a continuous fluid transition into the new fiscal year, but will be brought before the new board as a complete administrative packet for discussion and approval at July's meeting. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brandon.
Sorry.
Go to public comment now on the motion you just heard. Anyone from the public like to speak on that? Raise your hand. Not seeing any hands. To the board, questions, comments? Let's vote.
Voting item 5B, Kim Clements,
Yes?
Dean Cutler,
Yes.
Fiona Duffy, absent. Randall Freed, absent. Ira Gold, absent. Jeff Harwick,
Yes.
Julie Houlihan, absent. Scott Mandel,
Yes.
Chick Meehan,
Yes?
Brandon Marino,
Yes.
Richard Nitterberg,
Yes.
Rencero,
Yes.
Adele Slatter,
Yes.
Adam Summer, absent. Alexa Steinberg,
Yes.
Javi Velasco, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you, Kim. Item 6, Chip.
Do you want me to run through the ad hoc? No, I don't have a report today.
Thank you. On to 7, announcements by government representatives. Lorenzo is not here tonight. Savannah, are you here? That's you. Come on up. We have Savannah from Supervisor District 3 making
Hi.
your first appearance.
Should I
Sure.
sit? Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Savannah. I'm a field deputy for Supervisor Lindsay Horvath's team in the 3rd District. Nice to meet all of you.
Welcome.
This is my second month in the job, so yeah, thank you for, I went to the Residents Association meeting, so I saw some of you there. But yeah, good to be here. I know the main issue for me today is the Harvard Westlake issue, so just wanted to share that we received the letter that you all sent, so thank you for sending that. Our office reviewed it, and after that, we met with the Department of Public Works and had some internal meetings to better figure out what the county's role was in all of that. Based on those meetings, our understanding is that there is that piece of land on the southeastern portion that is currently being leased to the Weddington Golf Course. That has been in place for a while. With the proposed Harvard Westlake project, Harvard Westlake is seeking to continue leasing a portion of that land, which is a 1 acre area, and they're seeking to purchase a portion of that same land as well, which is a 5,200 square foot piece of land. The reason they're seeking to purchase it is to provide consistent fire and emergency access. Our understanding based on these meetings is that regardless of what the county decides to do, the project will move forward. If the county did not sell this piece of land to them, they would need to put their fire and emergency access in a different part of the project. But again, it's 5,200 square feet, so it wouldn't impact the larger project. Our understanding too is that the final EIR just came out in May, so our team is reviewing that in full and is preparing to brief the supervisor on that so that she can get all of the information so that we can determine what the county's next steps will be in all of that. And yeah, so our understanding is that's the county's involvement. The rest of the project largely falls within the city of LA, but we still want to be here throughout the whole process and be transparent. And at the next council meeting, I should hopefully have more information about any next steps from our end. But yeah, thank you for all sending the letter and looping us into all of this. I also don't have real business cards, but I have some printed out ones that I will leave back there if anyone has further questions or comments after this. Feel free to reach out to me.
Great. What we normally do is then we'll go to the public if you have a few minutes, and we'll let them ask some questions. We'll jot them down so you don't have to answer them one by one, and you can address them all, then we'll have a few questions for you. So
Sure, yeah.
we'll go to Barry.
Hi, so you said the project would go forward either way, but the going forward, there's a big one way or the other. Does it go forward with that track being on this public land, or is that track moved towards Whitsett so it's not encroaching on the public land? That is the big question right now that we still do not have an answer to. And I would assume that just because the golf course was using it, it's not a given or an automatic that a new owner can necessarily do that. So I guess that's what we still would like to see an answer to.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So yeah, my understanding is that with the Harvard Westlake project, it would be technically a new permit, the lease of the land, that would be using that same space. There's no draft agreements in place currently. It's still just the proposed project. So again, the supervisor is still being briefed on the issue so that we can determine next steps from our end. But yeah, that is correct, that it would be a new lease.
Is there anyone else from the public that has a question or a comment? I think we can go to the board now. Anybody?
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you say that Harvard Westlake was going to purchase some of the land from?
Yeah, so with their proposed project, it involves the purchase of a 5,200 square foot piece of county land.
Where is that?
It's on the southeast corner of the project. I don't know more specifically than that, but yeah.
So they're
portion of that
purchasing
land.
some of the land from the
From the county.
to own it so that they wouldn't have to lease it, or?
Yeah, so again, there's currently a lease in place, and so of that land, they are seeking to continue leasing the majority of that land, and they are seeking to purchase.
And is that where the turnout is?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're seeking to purchase the land where they come and turn around, do the, so
I
the
believe
paper-
that's what it is. But yeah, so there's
the paper road is owned by the county?
Yes, I believe so. I don't know more specifically. I just know it's the southeast.
I would like to have that information more
Sure.
clear.
Yeah.
What piece of land they're trying to purchase?
Yeah, I can figure that out.
Yeah, that would be great.
And then 5,200 feet is like 200 by 26. So it feels like it's 2 lanes. The way I interpreted that is it's 26 feet, 200 feet deep.
Okay, numbers, I'm not good with numbers.
So if you started at the Witsit curb
Yeah,
and you went west, you would go to sort of the corner of the fire station kind of thing.
and they want to purchase all that land?
Just from the curb to that would be roughly, if that's where it is, that's roughly what 200 feet would be.
And why do they want to purchase it?
If for their fire and emergency
Yeah.
vehicles.
So they
Not
want
for
to
building.
purchase it so that they can directly provide the emergency services.
Who
through that
can?
area. Harvard Westlake.
So they can have their private.
Emergency? Got it.
And then I think we have one more question about the county land, and that's the Zev Yaroslavsky Greenway. And it would be great to get a definitive statement from the county that none of that land, or if that land is being touched or used for the project, with the exception of, there's a ramp going down from the Harvard Westlake River project to the Zev. So we know that obviously we'll carve through part of the Zev to create it. But is there any other possible part of the project that touches the ZEV, not the lease that's already in place right now?
Yeah, my understanding is the answer to that is no, there's no additional part. I can double check with the Department of Public Works, but we did meet with them and that didn't come up at all because I don't think it encroaches at all on that greenway. But I'll confirm that.
Is there a permit or some kind of an agreement to carve the ramp through the ZEV?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll circle back on that.
And what about the fence that goes through the ZEV?
So I can give you just a list of what
Yeah,
we spoke
sure.
about, so I'll email it to you and then
Follow up on
you can follow up with that.
Yeah, sounds good. If you think of any other questions, feel free to include them on the
Yeah,
list.
I think for next month, we'll have questions about mental illness
Yeah.
and all the other stuff
I know
that the
there's a ton
supervisor
of
wanted to
county
speak
issues,
about
so, yeah,
at the
happy to
STRA
get
meeting.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to the regular county jurisdictional questions at the next one.
Yeah, sounds good. But yeah, just to be fully transparent, we have been having we've had been meetings with Department of Public Works because we want to understand too what the county role is. So yeah, I want to
Great.
provide the most accurate information if you will. So please do send me the list of questions, and if you think of anything else, feel free to email me directly too.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you all. Also, I don't know if she's here, Natalie from District 5. Yeah, was on her way. But yeah, thank you all, and great to meet you.
Thanks.
Thank
Well,
you.
we'll do the
Thank
county
you.
first, and then we'll go to the city. So do you have anything to report, Natalie? Yeah, come on up.
Down.
And just bring the mic.
All right. Well, good evening. I apologize, I was a little late. I was coming from another neighborhood council and got stuck in all that Hollywood Bowl traffic, which was lovely. My name's Natalie. I think it's my first time here at this meeting, but I have spoken to a couple of you. I'm the new field deputy for Supervisor Barger covering this area. So my office is in Toluca Lake, but we do cover parts of Studio City, which of course we do share with Supervisor Horvath, as you guys already know, as well as parts of Hollywood, North Hollywood, and then I do also cover Glendale, Burbank, and parts of the San Fernando Valley. Just a couple of, I apologize, I missed Savannah's portion, so hopefully I'm not being repetitive. Just a couple of updates from the board and Supervisor Barger. At the June 6th board meeting, Supervisors Barger and Horvath did author a motion that was approved in support of the Writers Guild of America strike. They did approve a resolution to the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, and that resolution does urge them to return to the negotiating table and end the strike by paying workers what they deserve and providing consistent assignments. And then Supervisor Barger, a couple months ago, she did just join as the co-chair of a National Mental Health Commission. So this Mental Health Commission
was done by NACO, which is the National Association of Counties. So she's very proud of that effort. She's one of 14 county leaders on that commission, and those are county leaders across the nation. So she was in DC last month to launch that effort, to launch that commission. And the goal of that is for counties to come together, advocate for federal mental health reform from a county perspective, since counties are tasked with dealing with those issues. So she is really proud of that effort, and that's ongoing and underway. And then at a May 17th board meeting, she did author a motion to support the continuum of the California film tax credit. So this tax credit was created by the legislature in 2009, and it is set to expire in 2024. So in the governor's, back in May, in his May revision budget, he did propose the continuation of this tax credit for an additional 5 years. And so Supervisor Barger did author that motion, in which the board approved unanimously to support the extension of that film tax credit to ultimately keep jobs here in LA County in California. And then lastly, I just wanted to let you all know that Supervisor Barger recently launched a new texting program. It's called Keeping Up with Catherine Text Alerts. So I encourage you all to sign up for it. You can go on her website and enter your phone number, and you can sign up to receive text alerts, and you can also pick the topics that you want to hear about, things that are important to you. You can also sign up to receive grant and resource opportunities for your community. She also has a weekly newsletter that goes out on Fridays. So if you guys are not signed up for that, I encourage you to sign up for that as well. Her website is catherinebarger.lacounty.gov, and you'll see it on the homepage to sign up for those two things. I believe that, and she is really excited to be attending the Studio City Residents Association meeting next month. The date is escaping my mind, but I know it's in July. 11, thank you. So she's really excited about that. And that's all I have, unless there are questions.
Anybody from the public have it? Go ahead, Barry.
I just was gonna say, it's wonderful. For years and years and years, we tried to get our one supervisor to come to Studio City and speak. We could never get her. Now that we have two, we got Supervisor Horvath in May, and we're getting Supervisor Barger in July. So it's wonderful to finally have our representatives from the county coming.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Yeah, she's looking forward to that.
Anybody else from the public? Board, comments, questions?
Just one quick question. We got a huge homeless problem in the area, and a lot of that, a spectrum of that issue is mental health problems. So just want to know briefly if more resources are being put into addressing, from a county perspective, the mental health challenges of the homeless population, because something needs to be done, because that's a huge proportion of the population on the street. So is the supervisor, I guess both supervisors, are they on top of that and getting more resources for that situation?
Yeah, so there's a couple, so the difficult part of the answer to that question is that it's largely, in California, the laws are really limited to, get people who are struggling with mental illness the help that they need. There are a couple of efforts out at the state level that Supervisor Barger is advocating for and supports. One, you guys may have heard of Care Court. Care Court's underway. LA County is set to start, our Department of Mental Health is going to be the main agency, the department implementing that. They're set to start on that. December is when LA County is supposed to, so LA County is in cohort 2. I believe cohort 1 has a group of counties that have already started Care Court. So LA County will begin that in December. There are a couple bills of the state legislature right now that I want to say SB 43 is one, which Supervisor Barger authored this motion. It was a couple months ago. The board meeting to support legislation like SB 43, and that basically expands the state definition of gravely disabled. That right now is currently in the assembly, and there are some amendments that the county is advocating for. Short answer, it's complicated, and until we see improvements at the state level and the laws that will allow us to compassionately help these people who do need the help, slow change. But we are working with the city council districts on encampment cleanup efforts. There are quite a few areas in Studio City where there is county jurisdiction with the washes that you see, the flood control facilities. So whenever it does overlap, we do work closely with the city council districts on that. I hope that answers your question, but yes,
Right. I was thinking more in terms of, like, at county hospitals, having enough bed space for people who are mentally ill. I'm told that there's a little bit of a shortage in that regard, so I just want to know if efforts are being made to increase beds for that purpose.
Yeah, that's part of, so earlier I mentioned the federal reforms. There's an IMD exclusion in which Supervisor Barger has been advocating for exemptions to this, for the state to apply for an IMD waiver. Basically what that is that it caps the amount that facilities could get reimbursed for mental health beds to 16. Basically, if you have more than 16, I think it's 16. If you have more than 16 beds, the facility doesn't get reimbursed for it. So she's been advocating for change at that level, and for the state, there's a waiver that you can apply for, but the state has to apply for that waiver. That's a huge limitation that we've seen because, you know, the facility is limited to 16 beds, and obviously we need more than 16 beds at any facility. Near here, we do, not near here, it's quite a ways away, but at all of you, we just opened the restorative care center, but again, that's limited, right? So,
Thanks.
long and complicated answer, I know.
Is there
I mean,
any
it just sounds
funding?
so government.
Is there any funding for fencing improvements for all the county flood property where the fences are cut? And that's the entrance for the encampments. And also county cleanup inside Tahunga Wash and LA River where the trash is being thrown, the shopping carts and the...
Yeah, we have a number of, and I wish I brought the list with me and I didn't, but we have a number of cleanups that we're aware of that along the Tahunga Wash, a few of the locations I think that you're mentioning. We are looking at how to improve fencing. I mean, yeah, the hard part is that they do the cleanups, the individuals unfortunately do return. The fencing has gotten damaged numerous times. We have sent Public Works out there. They do repair the fencing, but again, it gets damaged within a few days. We are actually having internal conversations and looking at maybe more permanent options where the fencing couldn't be damaged so easily. So that's, you bring up a good point. We are looking at that.
Great. I'll send you some photos and
Okay.
locations of fencing that works that Caltrans has been doing.
That would be perfect, yeah.
And it's in your district.
Okay,
Anybody else here? Thank you.
thank you.
And now on to the city. Walker and Denise, you might as well both just come up at the same time again. That formula's been working.
I'll get started while this comes up. So first, thank you, Abby, for that presentation. That was really lovely to see. Thanks for all of you have done to organize these events, and it's been great to be a part of them. And I know I've had fun coming out, and I'm sure the council member has too. Just a couple of quick points. Just to reiterate the dates for the Harvard Westlake hearings. The public hearing date will be July 12th. And the the meeting for the City Planning Commission will be on August 24th. Again, the public hearing is going to be on remote, and the City Planning Commission meeting is going to be all in person. So, you know, there's not going to be another meeting of this board before those, at least the public hearings. Just want to say that one more time. And second, we've been doing some more just cleanups and getting people moved into housing along the river at the SoCal Edison property. We've been working on getting most of the debris that's there just removed. Most of that encampment is just abandoned. There aren't, I think there's just one person there now, but we're working with SoCal Edison to remove things out of that area, get the last person there into some kind of housing or shelter, and then get the fence there repaired so we don't have people coming back into that area. And then we're continuing to work along the river with the grant that our office got from the state. We've had 5 more people move into shelter from the Greenway, continuing to do work on outreach there and getting more people inside. And then our office is hosting we usually call them neighborhood support days, but other offices call them Connect Days at the Unitarian Universalist Church on Moore Park on June 27th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. These are events we run just to get people, we bring a lot of the county and city services together. We usually try and have a shower truck, but our shower truck contractor stopped operating in LA, so hopefully we're running a new one. And then food, just to get people things that they need connected with DPSS, connected with the DMV. A lot of people need IDs, so the DMV can get people same-day IDs. Just things like that. So if you're interested in volunteering or coming out to that, just get in touch with me and I can connect you with Sophia, who runs those for our office. All right, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I have a couple community announcements. We are kicking off our NoHo Summer Nights at NoHo Park. We're going to be having movies and concerts this year. So, and I have some flyers. We have information on our website. July 8th is our first night, and that's the Element Band. I'm not quite sure what kind of music it is. But then on July 15th is our first movie, and that's Selena. There's also tap cards with NoHo Summer Nights on it. Just exciting to get the word out. Another community announcement is at the Campo this week is a speaker, Patrick Quinn. He has a book on, it's tomorrow night at 6:30. The doors open at 6:30, at 7 he starts. It's a book on cocktail napkins, history of cocktail napkins in California. It's kind of interesting, actually. I have some flyers, it actually does. And those are the community announcements. And then I just wanted to bring up the question that was asked. I think, Dean, you asked it about the graffiti on the waste management.
Yeah.
So I did talk to waste management. A account holder can request up to 3 cleanups on their bin a year, and after that, they do charge them. So, but what she said was they will work with like a neighborhood council or a bid to do some type of community event, maybe a certain day. So if you're interested in something like that, we could connect you with waste management to do some type of event. I don't know, to bring it to everyone's attention. I'm not quite sure how they do that.
Thank you.
And the other thing I just wanted to mention is that our maintenance crew is out cleaning the weeds. I'm not sure, hopefully you've seen some improvement. It's pretty overgrown out there, so it's taking some time. But if there's locations that you want cleaned in our district, please let me know. Just shoot me an email and I'll put it on the list.
So the same goes for our office too about weeds. We've been having a lot of trouble with some areas that require a street closure. If it's a really narrow walkway or like a median that's all concrete. This has just been a really classic city experience where different departments say we can't close the streets, others say we can't do the weeds, and no one can do both. We think we figured out a solution, so if you have any of those two, just let us know. We can work on it.
So no motion coming to rename Los Angeles City of Weeds?
No, but we're gonna keep it under consideration for next year.
Okay. We'll now go to public comment. Barry?
Regarding hearing officer hearings by the planning department, prior to COVID, never in a million years would they have considered doing a hearing like that, not in person. Now that we're out of COVID, they're claiming that because no actual decision is made, that they don't have to be in person. But the fact is, what they hear from the passion of the community when it's in person at that meeting formulates what they write for the City Planning Commission, and we have no, after that hearing on, for example, on July 12th, we have no further contact with the person writing up what's going to the City Planning Commission until August 24th. And when it's there, by the time the public meeting starts, the commissioners all have what's written up from this public hearing, and we really can't change it. I've never seen really anything change at a CPC hearing. It's signed, sealed, and delivered when we get to that meeting on August 24th. And I just think the planning department is hiding behind the and what they got away with during COVID. And I just want to say our Government Affairs Committee at its next meeting is going to formulate a motion for our board to send to our two council members, basically saying these hearing officer hearings have to be in person. Now, if they want to offer it hybrid, that's fine. Like the PRB, Ventura Specific Plan, is being done hybrid, that's fine, but there has to be the in-person element. And they're getting away with murder right now, standing behind that, saying that, well, nothing's really decided, so we don't have to meet in person. So, we're screwed on the 12th, but this is not the end. We're gonna come forth with something for the city council to force the planning department, which seems to be the only department in the city trying to get away without doing in person like they did before COVID. You would think we're still in COVID as far as Vince Bertoni is concerned. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Anyone else from the public? Not seeing any hands. Board comments, questions? Go ahead.
Two questions. So last time you guys were here, I asked you about the fencing at Whitsett and Riverside, where the state lands and the county and the city lands kind of intersect. Do you have any updates about how that's going? I think Steve Ferguson was shepherding that before he switched offices. Do you have an update for me on the status of the better fencing along the state area so the homeless aren't breaking the fences down and stuff?
Steve was gonna get me an update. So what he did tell me is that it's different contractors are doing, it's contracted out. He was trying to get to the contractor who's doing this area to get more information. He hasn't gotten to me yet, so.
Is there a budget for that, for monies to develop that area, or what's going on, or?
My understanding is the state has budgeted for that fencing, but that's really as much as I know.
Okay.
So he spoke to me last week. I told him I had this meeting tonight, and he didn't get it to me in time, so I'm sorry.
Okay, and then my second question is, last month we voted on a motion unanimously to oppose the decriminalization of low-level traffic crimes. And I know it came up for a vote earlier this week in the city council, and the city council actually kind of went against the will of our neighborhood council and voted to support the decriminalization. So I just wanted to find out the reasons why from each of your council office, why they voted that way.
You know what, I can get back to you on that. I don't know, because I'm not a policy person.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I would have to do the same, but I can do that.
Thank you.
Any other? Go ahead, Chip.
Yeah, question about fire hazard / homeless. With the growth we had from the rains, MRCA slammed. And so from along the Mulholland corridor, the green space that goes from the 405 to the Hollywood Freeway is overgrown like it never has been before. I noticed that particularly up in the Tree People area, over above Fryman, but the whole area. So you can actually hike up there, which I do frequently, and then look farther east, going over to your part of the world, and you could see that the grasses have not been cut back. It's waist high. It's never been so high. Is there a way to put some pressure on MRCA or throw some other resources at them so they can knock that down before we have a flash fire? And then the other issue has been, as happens when encampments are cleaned up, people move out. There's an area called the rainforest, which is not a rainforest, but for the first time ever, I saw a tent. Someone was clearly living there, and there was evidence of a campfire. And that is in a pretty volatile area. It's wet right there, but housing all over the place. A resident called MRCA, got to their ranger division, and was told that, yeah, everything's like that, overgrown, filled with homeless. Our rangers can't really get there, but we'll see what we can do. It's an imminent threat. So I'm just curious if you're aware of it, and if there's something we can do to help out the overloaded MRCA.
No, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So like you said, there's sand, everything's overgrown. We've been having a lot of these areas that aren't managed by the MRCA seen to by our LA Conservation Corps team. They're able to do a lot of like smaller lots like that to kind of like weed whack, take away a lot of brush. And then I know that I've talked a lot with the LAFD Brush Clearance Division because they're similarly responsible for kind of making sure that all of this is in compliance. And I know they're having a really busy season as well. If you have specific areas that we want to talk to you want us to take up with MRCA, just email this to me and I'll talk to Matt. I know that we met with him, and we'll just send this over and ask like, what's the status update? What are you working on here? Especially as things dry out, that's going to become especially more important. I don't know any specifics about people living in the MRCA land. That hasn't been brought to me. So either that's something that MRC just isn't communicating to us, and they think that they're kind of taking care of it themselves. But we'd want to know about it. So if you want to tell me more about that specific location, I'm not familiar with the rainforest. And we'll ask them about that, and then just ask them generally about like, hey, what's going on? Do you see people living here? Because fires in the hillsides are something we hear about from, we have the entire Hollywood Hills basically, and it's something we never stop thinking about, and we meet with LAFD all the time, and that's like a worst case scenario, so we want to do everything we can to avoid that.
Adele?
I just want to underscore what Barry said, because here we are in person, and we have to be in person. We don't have the option of being on Zoom, so it's a weird that, right. So, and the other thing is, I don't know if it's okay to ask Walker to weigh in on a motion that's coming up?
No, we shouldn't do it.
We shouldn't do that? Can you stick around for that one?
You're talking about the leaf blower motion?
Yeah.
Well, let me speak on that really quickly, because I was talking about, I'm not going to weigh in on your motions, but I just say something of the things that we're doing, and Adele, I know we talked about this recently. We have a draft motion. I'm just bouncing it with our policy and legislative people that we hope to introduce before the council recess. We introduce them, but it probably won't get through the entire process until the council comes back in July. That I think I did look over the agenda and we've talked about it. I think it's at most of what we've been talking about there. There's provisions there for report backs on increasing the fees and penalties for violating the gas-fired leaf blower ordinance, making the ordinance a little bit more expansive. And then I think one of the things that's most important is asking for Bureau of Street Services to really come up with a report about how they actually plan to enforce this. Like, kind of getting some information about whether this is actually being enforced as it stands at all, and then asking them like, okay, given that we hope, we're gonna get some numbers back and see like, is this actually being addressed? And then, depending on what those numbers show, be able to ask, okay, so what do you have a plan for fixing this? Do you have a plan for actually being able to resolve this problem? Because from what we hear from so many constituents is that it just doesn't work the way that it should be. So we'll get those informations back and then hopefully be able to craft some kind of actual change to the city ordinances to make this enforcement work the way it should. But I can't stick around for when you guys talk about the motion, sorry.
Do you have anything?
I don't. Oh, no, I'm sorry. But
I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I saw it. I just haven't talked to our policy staff about it. They weren't on our staff meeting today.
Oh, yeah, well, if it passes, we'll send it to you.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Thank you very much for showing up. Appreciate your
Thanks, guys.
coming.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are now moving on to item 8, public comment on non-agenda items within the neighborhood council's jurisdiction. A minute and a half for each person. If you filled out a comment card, just come on up. Or if you didn't fill out a comment card, just come on up if you want to speak on anything that's not on the agenda.
Barry, you have nothing?
Okay, that's a first.
Yeah.
On to item 9, government affairs. Barry, you can sit at the table and then you'll have the mic.
Joanne actually gave,
It's 11, I think she wants, right?
11, okay.
Okay, we have 3 motions tonight. Motion A, the first one, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, opposes the current design of Metro's Regional Joint Development Project for only 25% of the residential units for affordable housing. The area right on top of the metro station, the North Hollywood Metro Station, is earmarked for housing. There's already a lot of housing being built around that station, and it's all pretty much market rate. It's expensive housing. We always say we need to get affordable housing. Well, here is our chance. On top of the metro station, it's a metro project with a developer, and they're only being required to do 25% affordable. You know, why not make it 100% affordable or 75%? But 25% is just not enough, and we were asked by this area to do this motion in support. And it may not change anything for this project, but at least in the future, you know, they always say around a transit stop like this, a major transit stop, they want affordable housing. But yet, everything that's going up around NoHo so far is not affordable. So that's where this motion came from. We were asked and we came up with it, so.
And since I'm bringing the motion.
Yeah, so we need a second.
We'll need a second. Great. So there are quite a few links on the agenda. There's a lot of information available on this, but I think Barry just summed up the gist of it. So anyone from the public would like to comment on what you just heard, please come on up, raise your hand. You want to come up? So we'll do a minute and a half for this item. You be a timekeeper?
Do I need to state my name first? Sorry, this is my first
You
time.
can tell us who you are, unless you're here anonymously.
No, I'm not. I'm Truman Capps with the Novo Home Alliance. We have been supporting an increase to the affordable housing supply at this site. The basic gist is that the area that we're looking at is 16 acres of publicly owned land on top of the second most heavily trafficked public transit terminal in the county. Metro's own ridership data shows that something like 60% of the people who use the system live below the poverty line. So it really just makes the most sense if we're going to get serious about building affordable housing, we should concentrate as much of it as possible on top of a metro hub where the people living there can make the most use of it.
And even beyond the transit ride, I'm Elaine Loring, also with NoHo Home Alliance. Beyond transit riders, the way the economics are, about 25% of the people who live in the neighborhood will be able to afford the market rate housing. It's so out of reach of the people who live there as well as the transit riders. So from our perspective, this is a great opportunity. You know, we really have a crisis. The market's going to take care of market housing, and this is a joint metro project, and it's a great opportunity to really act on the need for permanent housing, which will help everybody from, you know, the cashier at CVS, the school teacher, as well as helping get people off the street and staying housed and not getting priced out. We're having a meeting with Supervisor Horvath tomorrow, and we were walking around trying to find a public space to have the meeting, and we went into Sunrise Ford. Even there, the manager's talking to us about how his salespeople have to travel over an hour to afford a place to live, to come work at his shop. So the need is great, and this is a real opportunity. And we feel strongly that if public officials
That's your time, thank you.
get pressure, maybe they'll do the right thing.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the public that wants to comment about this issue? Nobody? Board? Comments, questions for Barry? Go ahead, Kim.
The affordable housing, and I know Ira spoke about this kind of thing recently. Sounds great. We all want affordable housing. The rents are crazy, housing prices are crazy. But when they talk about affordable housing, it is it's a lower level of income generally. It can be ultra low, very low. We, in fact, as a board, I noticed, we're really fighting some of the things that were afforded developers. If they put affordable housing into some of the developments here, they could go higher, they could build bigger, they could do less parking. We've been fighting against that. I'm not, I gotta say, I'm not in favor of, and we're opposing here, this is an interesting thing. So we're opposing because it's only 25%, correct? Am I understanding?
And it's location, 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 remember.
But I oppose, I'm seeing, and I saw in one of the letters that was attached to about something about, you know, the middle class is being squeezed out, they're having to leave, blah, blah, blah. When you're talking about the very low income, ultra low, whatever, that isn't generally even the middle class. I see a lot of people being squeezed out. I have been where I've been for quite a long time, and if I wasn't under rent control, I'd look to move. Prices are insane. They are just insane, and I couldn't do it. People do it, they move into the area by doubling up or tripling up in a one bedroom or two or whatever. They're doing some crazy things to afford it. I do think that the market, though, eventually, if you fill these spots with people with the ultra low or low income affordable housing, then you are squeezing out, you're manipulating the market, I think, because those would not be vacant then. Therefore, the prices are not going to come down. And the costs associated with this affordable housing get spread amongst the other tenants there. We had, was it Sportsman's Lodge, I think, or one place that even said that. We asked, how is that absorbed? Oh, the other units. And I was a little shocked sitting here that it was actually, that he actually said that. So anyways, I'm not for this affordable housing. I really want prices to come down too, but I think the market would eventually dictate that. Anyways, I'm torn because the reason we're opposing is because it's only 25. I oppose it.
And it's also
In general.
a location where it's not like we're tearing something down to build something large. It's where there is nothing built now. It's very different than what we have cases we've had in Studio City.
Any other, Karen, Ren?
Isn't it 16 acres of public land?
Right, and it's public land as
Right.
well.
So it's like, it should benefit the public. And the need right now is for affordable housing. So I don't know, I mean, everybody manipulates the market somehow, whatever decision you make economically. So at least, you know, I mean, rents are competition. So if you're going to have, you know, affordable housing, at least that is a little bit, a tiny bit of, you know, to bring rents down, because that should be the goal, not keeping the price going up when inflation is going up and productivity is still slightly going up. So it's like, but the real driver here is that the developer is gonna benefit 100% from all the rents and everything, correct? The public isn't, but yet we've donated our public 16 acres so that they can make a profit. So at the very least, we could have affordable housing, and I do think it should be 100%.
Brandon, go ahead.
Just a clarification, I didn't have a chance to read all the documents, my apologies. How close is this to the metro station? Right on top of it?
Yep.
Next door?
It's a
Okay.
big project.
So, just a clarification, this is something, the very low income housing, these are individuals who more than likely would choose this place because they don't have an automobile and they use the metro all the time. Okay, also, another question, again, my apologies for not digging deep into this, is this a plan for Metro, all their stations? Are they gonna build next to their stations all over the city, this same thing?
They have, like,
They have.
at Wilshire in Vermont, they have done this.
Okay, and is it the same thing, 25% on all of them? Or just this specific one? Is this the blueprint for all of them? You're an expert, so I.
Anything, Metro adopted a policy that 100% income restricted housing would be in their projects whenever possible. Unfortunately, District NoHo, which is the name of this project, was in the works before that.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
and I'd just like to point out, it actually has not been identified what levels of affordability this project is gonna have. In fact, the latest document from the developer calls it income restricted, which enables people who earn 120% of the median income. So very much middle class.
That does answer my question, thank you. It just seemed like, I like this idea of very low income housing being right on top of a metro station. It's the perfect place for it, especially individuals who don't have automobiles, or it's just getting really too expensive in the state of California to own an automobile, much less gas. It's a good plan. I would like to see more very low income and low income housing, as she stated, clearly defined by Metro, and across all of their future projects, just like this. I would like to see more of a clarification, so now I better understand this. Thank you very much for building.
I have a clarification too. So it says only 25% are affordable. What's the other 75%?
Market rate,
It's what the market determines.
which is
what the
quite,
people-
quite
No,
high
I
in that
understand,
area.
I understand market rate. So what's the other option? 100% affordable
Or anything in between 25 and 100%.
or 50/50? I mean, like, when we,
And the degree of affordability, you know, there's like very low, there's like low income, very low income. On each tier, you probably have a smaller square footage of an apartment, you know. The very low could be a studio apartment that's 400 square feet. Could be.
you have an answer?
So the initial RFP for the project, which was voted on, I think in 2014 or 2015, initially called for 35% of the units to be set aside for affordable housing. Over the course of several years of planning, that number got reduced to 20%. Through a couple of years of advocacy, we've been able to get it up to 25%. So we've at least been trying to push them to take it to the original 35%.
Is there any way to have that be 50/50?
I mean, that would.
I mean,
That would be
seriously,
great.
I'm serious about that.
That's the goal.
Yeah, different rule if that could happen, but we just weren't on the case when this first got
Right.
approved and voted through.
I got it, okay.
So we're at the point now that the message needs to be, we need more, this is not meeting the opportunity.
Right.
And what the number is
It doesn't matter, yes. Got
for
it.
these purposes.
So is this the jurisdiction of the Metro Board? I assume they gave this the green light before the Metro Board realized there was a housing crunch?
So we'll send this to the entire, our city
Yeah.
council members, the rest of the city council, and keep in mind that Krikorian is also on the Metro Board, so
course.
he'll get it as a Metro Board member and the entire Metro Board.
Has the Metro Board made a public statement as to why this project only came in at 25% when some of those people on the board are actually advocating for more affordable housing, and they're just housing everywhere, but why not there? And I'm just very curious as to why such a large parcel of public land seems to get the short shrift under the jurisdiction of the people who are crying for more housing, and they understand the housing elements, they understand all of the pressure. They explain that we're under pressure and that we need to all approve or support developments right in the heart of Studio City for affordable housing, which is not adjacent to a transit station. So I'm just wondering what the Metro Board has on their mind with this developer. They gave them some incentive to build, and I believe the developer is making improvements to the Metro station in exchange for,
$1 million worth
yeah.
of
So they're not just getting to build and make money, they are investing quite a bit in the infrastructure of our transit system, which is sorely needed as well, or these people won't have a transit system to ride it. So, I mean, so we're not saying how much it should be, we're just saying, could it be a little more? And the 35% was more, and then they knocked it down. Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I reviewed all the documents and whatnot, and I'm a little bit concerned about the scope of the project. I mean, this is a huge, massive project that's going to be going on at the same time as probably the Sportsman's Lodge project, and then you got your Harvard Westlake project. Then you got the other one near the assisted living project going on. So you're going to have all these projects going on at once. I mean, it's over 1,500 units, 3,300 parking spaces. And the Sportsman's Lodge is like 578 units, I think.
It's far enough away that.
But wait, let me finish. So there's a tower, I'm looking at the plans right now, 770 feet. So that's like 27 stories. I mean, we've never had anything that gargantuan in the area before. And I think this is just too much. Rather than focusing on 25% of affordable housing, we should be focusing on the strains to the roads, to parking, to those sorts of things. And we're trying to turn NoHo into Century City with these huge, monstrous towers. And if this project was in Studio City, I dare say that none of us would be supporting this, but yet we're supporting this in NoHo. So I don't get it.
The ship has sailed for the height, though.
But it's terrible. So
Probably because of the high quantity of affordable housing allowed them to go much higher and bigger. And this is why, another reason why these aren't the best option. Again, we all would love everything to come down price-wise, but there is a lot more to it. I'm just totally not in favor of this.
yeah, but so the scope of the project is just too immense. So I don't want to support any of this right now because I don't feel, first of all, Studio City should be chiming in on a project that's a NoHo.
The NoHo neighborhood.
Wait, hold on. I just don't think that it's for us to weigh in on this. I mean, but if we do weigh in on it, I think we should weigh in on reducing the scope of the project and determining what the effects in terms of parking and traffic are, because they're going to be considerable.
It's too late to do that.
That's probably
It's
too late to
already
do
been
this too.
approved. What we can do is change the percentage of what the affordable housing units are. And keep in mind, as I said before, if you look around circle around that station, all the buildings that have come out are by and large market rate. There's very little, if any, low-income housing.
I got a really quick question.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't take too much time.
And then
Measure LH for affordable housing mandates, like up to 5,000 units by 2029, which would be the end of our housing plan, I believe. I'm a little surprised that 25% is so low, because I would think Council President Krikorian would love to cut into that quota. I mean, it's not a hard 5,000, it's up to that. But I would think he would want more affordable housing here to cut into that quota.
But this all happened before the housing element came out.
Yes, but there's still room to change that.
Yes, yeah. Well,
So-
that's why this motion.
Okay.
Well, it seems it would take a lot of heat off of other areas. And sort of to Jeff's point, well, build it over there, not over here.
But, I mean, we live in a region, we can't just say our problems end at the 101, from 101 north, we don't care. We're in a region, and the regions affect each other.
Especially the traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few towers over there already, and they're tearing down fairly new buildings to
The
build
Lemley
like the
Theater.
Lemley Theater.
Paul's office building.
Yes, which is ironic.
Yeah.
And that's going to be demolished. It's got a lot of years left on it, and they're going to build a tower. That area is going to look like Century City. It already is starting to. Any other?
I just have a question. Let's see. Would it be ridiculous to ask for 50% affordable housing?
No, but the motion is just opposing.
I understand.
Yeah,
No, I
right.
understand.
And the motion is what they asked us to do.
Right. No, I'm just saying because if you look, I mean, if you read, there's something called the vacancy report. In the vacancy report, it says that in LA, we have 40%, a need of 40% housing for affordable housing, and we're overbuilt in market rate housing by 40%. So the exact amount we need of affordable housing, we have not, we have market rate housing. So we've got this sort of inequity, and we need to balance that. But, I mean, I know one of the problems is that when you do more affordable housing, you can go higher and higher and higher. So, and that speaks to what Jeffrey's saying, that I think is ridiculous. But it would be really great if, when they build beautiful apartment buildings, that they had 50% affordable and 50% market rate. And then we would start to find a balance, right? So
Or
I'm just.
more.
Or more. But
In a
at least.
situation like this.
At least, right, at the minimum. So I was just wondering if there's a way to ask for more than 35%.
I think the more you ask for, the more incentives have to be given.
But that's where it's, like, sorry, it's bullshit, right? That's where it's like, are you kidding me? You get more incentives? Oh, did I say something bad? No,
I'm
but
just kidding.
it's like, well,
Well, look at Sportsman's. Look what they were able to do. and
on
incentives.
78,
Yeah.
right.
So, I mean, you got to be careful what you wish for, because then they'll build a 200-foot tower, or who knows what.
Well, but that's not, okay.
I have a
it's
five-story
not a
apartment
transit
complex
hub.
going up across the street. I'm just south of the boulevard, and there's nothing over 3 stories there.
I know.
And the
I'm
homeowners,
watching
it backs, there are houses across the street. The homeowners are just livid about it. It's such a misery. It is such an eyesore, and the street is too tiny to handle this, and yet they did it anyways. And it is absolutely ruining things. What they're doing around, and when I say they, I mean they would build up one end to the other. They're trying to turn the valley into the west side. There's building, because it is desirable. It is lucrative. But then it gets ruined for everybody, or the people who don't want to live on top of transit, or don't want to live with, in an 8,000 unit building. They're moving. So obviously I'm passionate about it, because I'm this close to moving. I'm so tired of it. And the people who are struggling, who are just outside of the affordable housing as well, screwed. They're screwed. You know, they can't absorb the cost of the affordable housing like the more wealthy or those who want to go in 2 and 3 in an apartment. I won't do it. I won't live that way. So sorry, I apologize for getting all
And the
up in it.
70-foot by you is not even affordable housing.
Some
They
of them
got
are.
in there, no, they got in there because of the TOC, because of the proximity, they're within a half mile of the Universal Studio City metro station. And SCRA opposed that with the adjacent R1 people on Fruitland, on the south side of Fruitland, but there was, we couldn't win it.
Yeah. It's miserable. It
Yeah,
is
it's too high.
absolutely, it is.
Yeah,
It's disgraceful.
I think, hearing all these comments, I kind of think this motion sort of represents everybody, because it just starts off that we oppose the project. And they may not even read past that.
But
So,
we're gonna send a different message if we oppose it because of the 25%. Some of us are just opposing the
We have a letter-
25%.
We have a letter, though. There's a letter going with the motion.
I
Yeah,
read
but
the
it
things
focuses
too.
on the 25%.
Yeah, it's a different, it's saying other things that I want, so that I'm going to oppose this.
The 10 UCP, the sort of octagonal building at the bottom of Universal Studios, that's 36 stories. And I had an office in there for a bunch of years a while ago, and at that point, that was the tallest building between Hollywood and San Francisco. And so that's, call it 34, 36 stories, and now they're talking some of these 27-story buildings. I mean, it's kind of remarkable. It will look like Century City.
so any more?
They did it in Woodland Hills, with the Marriott, the Warner Center there. You know?
Any other questions? Barry, final words before we vote?
Go ahead and
That was
vote.
a tough one.
Okay, so for clarification, if we are opposing this
It's a yes vote.
position, motion, is it a yes or a no?
Yes.
What are we doing?
If you are opposing it, then it's a no.
If you're voting
If you're
yes,
supporting,
you're voting to
the opposite.
oppose.
Wait a minute, why are you talking? You guys
If
are
you
saying
vote
the contrary.
yes, you agree with what the motion says. If you vote yes.
If I vote yes, what does that mean again?
You agree with what the motion says.
Okay,
But it should be higher than 25%. Affordable. That's.
and if I say no, it means I don't,
There's no motion.
there's no motion.
We won't have a motion.
Okay, all right. So I need to be able to see if passes or no. Kim Clements,
No.
Dean Cutler,
No.
Fiona Duffy, absent, Randall Freed, absent, Ira Gold, absent, Jeff Harwick,
No.
Julie Houlihan, absent, Scott Mendel,
No.
Chip Meehan,
Yes.
Brandon Marino,
Yes.
Richard Niederberg,
No.
Rain Sarah,
Yes.
Adele Slaughter,
Yes,
Alexa Steinberg.
she's out.
Oh, no, she left?
Where'd she
She's in the bathroom.
Restroom, I think.
Okay,
See your
Abby
bags.
Velasco, no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, no. 1, 2, 3, 4, yes. So motion fails?
Yes.
No, 4 yes. Yeah, I did say 4 yes, 6 no.
Are we
Motion,
giving Alexa a vote or not?
she wasn't here for the
Alexis, no.
discussion.
So even if she'd been here, it wouldn't have mattered.
She was here, but she left.
Even if she was here and if she would have voted yes, there's 6 no's.
Right.
So,
Okay, motion B, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, requests Council President Paul Krikorian and Councilmember Nithya Raman to make a motion to change the building code for remodeling permits to require leaving at least 51% of a building's original structure to qualify for grandfathered building codes when adding on or essentially rebuilding on a remodeling permit. and many of you have probably seen single-family home tear down, where they tear everything down except they leave like one wall. Skeleton. And then they rebuild the rest of it. And now, because they only had to have between the side property line and the building, they originally only had to have 3.5 feet, but under the new building code current, they'd have to have 6 feet. But they get to keep that 3.5 feet because they haven't torn the whole thing down. But they've basically torn everything out except one wall, and then when they start building the new walls, they end up tearing that down anyway. So I think 51% is fair, that they ought to leave 1% more than half to get the benefit of the grandfathered setbacks. So that's what this is about. And currently, Scott found this after much research. It's supposedly 25%, but I don't think it's enforced because I see way more than 25% come down. So, yeah, that's where this stems from.
So we're going to go to public comment.
Need a second first.
Oh, that's right.
second.
You do need a second.
I'll second it.
So what I was going to say is when a board member brings a motion, or at least when I do it, it doesn't necessarily mean I support it. It just means I want it to come in front of the board and have it see the light of day. So these few that you're going to see were all brought by me, and you will see when I vote if I supported it or not. So now going on to public comment. Anyone from the public want to chime in on this? Okay, no public comment. To the board.
Question.
Yeah, Brandon.
Is the 51% an arbitrary number, or is there a reason you put down 51%? Because you were talking about 25% a moment ago. So between 25 and 51 is it's just greater than half?
Yeah, just so
makes
it's
more
greater
sense to
than
you?
half, it seemed fair.
Okay. All right.
And the 25 I don't think is fair, and it's definitely not enforced either.
Got it.
Anybody else have questions?
What's the downsize for like the developer or the contractors for increasing it to like 51% from 25?
Well, if it's actually enforced, they couldn't they'd have to leave something up that would qualify them to keep the existing setback. But if they took too much down, they don't. So.
Anybody else? Brandon, go ahead.
Okay, in terms of remodeling, in terms of taxes, and I guess the city controller, I think it's the controller. Is it the county or the city?
County assessor.
Well, that's Jeff Frank, correct? That's a county. But the city, I guess, is Kenneth Mejia, is that what it is?
County assessor's tax.
Oh, it's county assessor's tax. If you, you know this. Remodeling changes everything in terms of what the county can collect.
Correct.
So-
Like if you're in under Prop 13, you owned your home in 1978, you are going to lose your benefit if you start remodeling much.
But the 51%, if this is changed to 51%, can the county collect more tax? Is it change the structure of what the county can collect on the,
It's based on what your property's valued at after it's finished.
They will give you a supplemental tax based on your additional square footage and reevaluate. You're still gonna benefit from Prop 13, but they're only going to add and assess what is the footage being added. So, in a sense, it would be less tax dollars, because you're gonna keep 51% of the footage. So you're gonna be adding less footage, less tax dollars, less taxable reassessment.
thank you.
So if
But
it
the thing
remodeled,
is now, they actually they say they're doing one thing, but they do something else.
Agreed, and that's an enforcement issue, which is amongst many other signs and all sorts of stuff. It's all about enforcement.
Anybody else? Let's vote.
But
Oh, go
I have
ahead.
one question, Perry. That is the thought process to deal with the side yard setbacks, or what would modify the side yard setbacks?
It's the setbacks more than anything, yeah.
It's not overall footage or dimensionalization or anything.
Right. It doesn't change that.
It's just
And
maintaining.
actually, if somebody does do a remodel and keeps their existing setbacks, they still can't go over baseline maximization. Like
constraint.
My next door neighbor is maxed out. It was a tear down and it's a new house. They're maxed out. They could not add an ADU because they are maxed out by baseline maximization. I could add an ADU.
And is this only residential?
Yes.
Your intent?
Yes.
Because it doesn't say that, does it?
Well, I never see it happening in a business structure.
Well, there are, I'm not certain, there's probably a whole different host of reasons that you would maintain grandfathering, but,
But it seems fair across the board, that you gotta keep 51% if you're gonna keep grandfathered rights of setbacks and stuff.
keeping 51% of.
Of the original.
Of the original probably
Yeah.
doesn't, what does that do to upgrading the structural parts of that part that you leave? Probably falls and maintains and stays way behind.
And
Code
hopefully,
issues.
this would encourage more developers to just do a tear down and start from scratch, instead of trying to skirt the law and build using the grandfathered setbacks.
It's like they're getting benefits, but they're not.
Dean, isn't the deal with, I thought it was the banking, I thought it was all of the paper, so you had to, if you tear the house down completely, you have to pay the lot off, right, and then get a construction loan? I thought that was why they had to leave
No.
some of the old dwelling up, no?
No, the lending requirements are not part of it.
Okay.
I mean, some people they just get a new loan, some are on construction loans. Sometimes the lenders don't even know there's remodeling going on.
So what this sounds like it does is it just gets the attention of the city council that, our lying eyes are telling us that there's some very strange partial demolitions going around town. And we see what sprouts from those versus when the bulldozer clears out the entire lot, and then you get the new code. So people are intentionally, for multiple reasons, leaving like a skeleton up. And then they probably, I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything, but I think when they start putting up the new stuff, the old skeleton falls down somehow, and it is a complete tear down. But they've still taken advantage. So I think this, for me anyway, I think this is fine. It gets the attention. We're not rewriting these building codes, but we're going to get the attention of our two council members to maybe look into this. Maybe they already are, I don't know. Anybody else? Let's vote.
Here, we're voting on item 9B. Kim Clements.
Yes.
Dean Cutler.
Yes.
Fiona Duffy, absent. Brenda Freed, absent. Ira Gold, absent. Jeff Harwick.
Yes.
Julie Mulligan, absent. Scott Mandel.
Yes.
Chick Meehan.
Yep.
Brandon Marino.
Yes.
Richard Nitterberg.
Yes.
Rencero.
Yes.
Dale Slutter.
Yes.
Adam Summer, absent. Alexis Steinberg.
Abstain.
Abby Velasco. Yes. Motion passes.
Okay, motion C, the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, requests Council President Paul Krikorian and Councilmember Nithya Raman to make a motion to change all the Department of Recreation and Parks restroom facilities toilet paper roll bar holders, so the toilet paper will actually turn when pulled. The status quo also has ADA violation ramifications. And I hope you all looked at the video, but this may sound corny, but this is a pet peeve of mine. Somebody who works out in the field and often has to find a restroom in a park when I'm working. And some years ago, I know why they did this, because kids would pull the toilet paper and it would freely come off and they do stuff with it. But that bar is like wide enough so the roll won't turn. So you can't, it's like you have to take the toilet paper backwards to get a couple pieces off. It's the most ridiculous. When you go in there, and if any of you went in at Beeman, and Scott got the video at Beeman, when we were there for the movie night, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's just absurd that Recreation and Parks' answer to this was this. So this is just to get the attention of Recreation and Parks, because I just think it's they never have to replace the toilet roll because you can't get any off.
Sounds like conservation.
It may be by design.
I'll second it just to hear the discussion.
Thank you.
Public comment on toilet paper in the park.
Oh, come on. This is good, guys. No.
Okay, let's go to the board. I hope you all watched my video. I actually went into the park with my camera. And
Did Barry go into the restroom
play that
and
on
you
the
recorded it?
Scott did.
No, I'm
You were in the
kidding.
restroom
I'm
too?
No.
Okay.
No, that's the video I wanted to see.
This isn't done.
Yeah, I know. I get work.
I have to say, I played tennis at like Balboa. It's the same thing. You have to like
Go backwards.
It's super annoying. It's super annoying. He's not wrong.
You have to
Just
fish
saying.
it.
But
He's
could
totally
this have
not
just been done with a letter and a video to them directly? Do we need to do a motion?
Yeah, we do, and they'll get the video.
Probably.
You know what?
Are you gonna be the
City of
laughing
Weeds
stock?
got we got really good attention on City of Weeds. Just saying.
Can we just write an email to Adam?
We actually received a response from one of the council offices on City of Weeds, and it said, "Well played." And they both spoke about weeds.
That's pretty funny.
And
You want me to play the video?
So we are the neighborhood council of weeds and toilet paper.
there'll be a link to it, yeah.
It's not a CIS, it's just
a letter.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a letter.
I just say, I think this would be a fantastic opportunity for the city to talk about how we should stay hydrated all the time. Because if you're hydrated, you don't need as much toilet paper.
Are you?
Hey, it's science, don't knock science. If you're hydrated, you don't need as much toilet paper. So this would be a way for us to talk about it.
Can I motion to vote?
2 for 1.
Call for a vote.
Call for a vote.
Hang on, is everybody done speaking?
I think there's a lot of conservation going on. You know, notwithstanding concern, I think it's about carrying your own toilet paper,
Well, we vote.
bringing it in. I think the amount of waste is gonna be crazy, and then it's gonna be
Oh, thank you.
dirty.
No, thank you. He played it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And these do get the attention of the city council.
Got ours.
So, absent any more hands, let's vote.
Okay. Okay, we're voting on item 9C about the toilet paper. Give comments.
I can't believe it, but yes. I'm gonna support.
Charmin or just
Charmin? You said Charmin?
Dean Cutler.
I'm gonna lean on the conservation side, no.
No. Okay. Conservation. Fiona Duffy absent. Randall Freed absent. Ira Gold absent. Jeff Harway.
Yes.
Charmin or conservation.
Charmin conservation.
Julie Julian absent. Scott Mendel.
Yes.
Chip Meehan.
Yes.
Brenda Marino.
Yes.
Richard Nitterberg.
Yes.
Rancero,
No.
Adele Slutter,
Yes.
Oh, really? Sustainability's not a no? Come on.
Adam Summer, absent. Alexa Steinberg.
No.
Abby Velasco, yes. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yes, and 1, 2, 3 no. Motion passes. Sure.
Okay, Transportation Committee motion A. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council, SCNC, requests Councilmember Nithya Raman to support a preferential parking district, PPD, for the Alcove Avenue, Goodland Avenue, Valley Heart Drive, Woodbridge Street, and Bloomfield Street neighborhood north of the Los Angeles River, east to Goodland Avenue, and west to Ethel Avenue. See attached letter.
Public, go ahead.
The neighborhood came to us and is asking for this. We have done this with our council members in the past. And this particular neighborhood, before, this is just with the shops at Sportsman's, not even developing the other 75% of it. They can't park in their own neighborhood because all the employees are parking in their neighborhood from Sportsman's. And Sportsman's in their CUP was supposed to not have paid parking. So because they have paid parking now, their employees would have to pay to park there for 8 hours, so they're parking in the neighborhood. So the council office and LADOT requires that the neighborhood council support a neighborhood that wants to do this. So this is our first step in getting the support. The neighborhood still, if the council office supports this and sends it forward to LADOT, then LADOT gives the forms to the neighborhood. They have to walk their own neighborhood and get 75% of the signatures of the residents of the neighborhood saying they want to have paid parking permits for their neighborhood. So it's a long road ahead. This is just the initial start to enabling the neighborhood to go forward to attempt, should the council office go along with them.
Anyone from the public like to speak on this? Not seeing any hands. Brandon, go ahead.
I got a question. I need some clarification on this because it looks like you skipped an entire section. I was on the LADOT website. The first stage is interest stage. Contact your council district office to schedule a meeting as you stated. Well, actually, you didn't state that. Because the second part is the council district office will invite the interested parties to a meeting with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation.
That's changed since that was written. That was
Okay, what-
before neighborhood councils.
No,
Yeah.
I just printed this today.
I know, but it was written before neighborhood councils. They've been using it that long.
So this interest stage is no longer applicable,
Correct.
even though on the LADOT site, they have just not.
Correct. If you go to the council, if I lived in a neighborhood and I want a PPD and I called up Walker,
Okay.
he'd say, okay, but we need a motion from your neighborhood council.
Okay, and then what happens after that?
So Nithya would get this.
Okay.
And
then
then
she would meet with all
if
the
she's
interested parties.
okay with it, she sends it on to DOT, and then DOT starts by sending out the paperwork to the representatives of this area, and they have to start by getting the signatures. That's the first step.
Okay, so basically, this whole step where the neighborhood council basically takes over the job of the council district office, meaning that with all the
Initially.
interested parties getting together, and there were no options, all the available options have been exhausted, and this is the last, okay, between the neighborhood, Midwood, and us, there's no other options available.
Well, Midwood is not offering up to not charge for parking and let their employees park there as they said they would.
As they said they would.
I
Right.
think we should have a motion.
Is a PPD different than like a single street or a couple streets that have permit parking?
That's what it is.
Because we did it on our street without ever going through, we just need to collect a certain amount of signatures and it was done. We have.
But you had an existing, there was already an existing permit for your street. And see, they don't have anything existing for these streets.
I see.
That's not what was said in the January meeting. The January meeting, Peter Cole actually said there's already signs up there limiting parking.
But it's not a PPD.
Got it. Okay, so it's not a PPD.
It's like no parking at all for certain hours.
The residents can't park there either.
Yeah, the residents can't park either.
Got it. Okay.
Barry, are they still doing the shuttle to the B of A parking structure for staff? Because at one point they were.
No.
Okay, they
There
stopped.
was not
Yeah.
an employee interest,
Yeah.
and they discontinued it.
I think the employees just think it's too far and too time consuming.
It's not just employees, by the way, it's customers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because now the parking is so bad, it's, you can see,
well, somebody in a $100,000 car who comes down from Mulholland Drive to shop there is gonna go to the parking garage across from Arts and get in a grungy bus
Yeah,
to go
no.
over and
I
shop.
mean, the
It's
neighborhood-
not gonna happen.
the neighborhood parking is.
It's just not gonna happen.
Customers as well.
We get rid of all the parking. it would-
Yeah. I mean, people need to get real about people, the cars you see in Studio City. They are not people that are gonna, coming down from the hillside, that are gonna ride a bike or walk or take public transportation. They just aren't.
If we get more affordable housing, we'll have,
Yeah.
it'll be done.
Is the $20,000 car owner gonna do that? Is that what you're?
Maybe.
Is that what you're inferring?
Maybe,
Do we have that statistic?
maybe.
They're not.
I think we
Are
have.
we ready to
The bottom
vote?
line is
Does
it's not-
anybody have any more questions? I think we can vote on this.
I would like to say that I think neighborhood parking permits are bad for business, just bad for business, because if everybody's like doing the permit parking, then it's true, the customers have nowhere to park, they just move on. And if you want your neighborhood to be in good condition, then you want your businesses to thrive. So if it were up to me, I'd get rid of a lot of permit parking in LA. So there's no way I'm gonna vote yes.
This
to
business is thriving, and it as at the expense of their adjoining
Well,
neighborhood.
that's an issue that we
Yeah.
should take on.
That's why we're doing this.
But I don't think it's worth punishing everybody by restricting parking even more. I think we need to talk about why the businesses aren't, accommodating their employees for parking or the customers.
We have gone that route, and we are not getting an adequate answer.
I would agree with you, Ren. However, I do know from experience what it's like. We would get people for, the Hollywood Bowl parking used to be across from where I am. And we constantly, the residents could not find parking. Our guests could never park. And we're so close to Ventura as well, that people would park there and go to restaurants and this and that. Never any parking for the residents or their guests, which is unfair for the people who are living right there, Businesses were doing great. Unfortunately, again, that's a problem with Los Angeles not having enough parking for businesses.
Well, and they live right by the Hollywood Bowl, so it's like,
This was, it was the park and ride, not by the Hollywood Bowl. It was just a parking lot, and people, wasn't even a pay. They just didn't want to, I think, park in there for traffic. I don't know.
Brandon?
Anyways,
they were parking.
it is helpful. It actually.
$100,000 bus.
It's such an annoyance to the residents that they are willing to endure the annoyance of permits. Because now if you want to park on the street, you have to have a permit, your guest, you have to get a permit for them, you have to pay for this. So it's that much of an annoyance to the residents that they are willing to do this, go through these hoops, so.
Still get rid of it.
Isn't it a condition of a CUP approval that they have the ample parking? Isn't it like one spot per
They're
100
not
square feet?
abiding by their CUP.
They can get fined for that,
Yeah.
like big time.
Enforcement in LA, like I always say, the only thing that's enforced is if you murder someone.
And not
And not even then, half the
even.
time.
But they don't grant, I mean, they come out and they inspect prior to granting a CUP. And when they don't see the ample number of parking spots that are required per LAMC, how does that CUP
But see,
get
they have
granted?
the required spots. It's that they're not providing them free to everyone.
So
Oh, so nobody wants to pay for parking?
Well, and someone
the
at
employees
$12 an
don't.
hour doesn't want to pay $4 an hour
That's
to
fair.
park for their
Yeah.
car. That,
And
that's the
that's where
issue.
they're breaking their CUP.
Right.
Well, they can get fined for that.
But they haven't been. But
Yeah.
they also have had live music, and they're not allowed to have live music. And
But also, don't forget, the city approves projects that are inadequate, that have inadequate parking. And they encourage, and they're pushing legislation for inadequate parking. If you're within half a mile of a transit
More so
stop,
now.
you don't have to provide a single spot.
Right.
And you could have a restaurant, you could have a commercial, you could have.
But that
housing.
wasn't the case with this location.
That wasn't okay. And what's happening all up and down Ventura Boulevard is, as it gets developed, it's the residential areas that provide the parking for the businesses. It's not the residences who are taking away the parking from the businesses. The businesses are taking it away from the residents. And this is a good start.
So are the valet. Valet
Yes.
parks all of their cars in the residential area. Always. I've chased them. It's quite fun how they drive
yeah,
through the,
yeah. And
the
sometimes
neighborhood in somebody else's
You
car.
get a ticket and you don't know.
Right.
They get a parking ticket, they throw it away, and a month later it comes in the mail. It's like, what the heck? Brandon, go ahead.
Question for Barry again. You've discussed this 6 times during transportation, last November, January, February, April, and twice in May. Only now you're bringing this motion to us at our last regular meeting as this board. Also, there's 4 people in attendance, nobody from this neighborhood. If this was such a pervasive problem, I would think I would see individuals from the neighborhood screaming bloody hell right now, coming up here. And I
They-
thought,
they
hold
were.
on, and I didn't check my emails today, I could check them right now. I would think if there was a problem, we would be receiving emails. Typically, we would get on hot button topics, emails from the residents saying, please vote for 10, we really need this. I haven't heard a thing yet. So my question to you is this preventive maintenance? Is there a problem right now? Or are you perceiving a potential problem in the future and you're cutting it off at the pass?
There's a problem now.
I'm not
It's-
hearing anything from anyone,
It
except the same
has
3 or 4 people.
been brewing since fall, and finally, people like Peter Cole and the people in his neighborhood
Yes.
came to me as transportation chair and said, we need this. Our transportation meeting this month was it was on May 31st. It was entirely one subject, and it was about sportsmen's and parking. And that's why it finally came to a head after being discussed. Because at first, a few of the residents wanted it, and it just kind of kept brewing and getting worse. And then it was like, by the time we had the meeting in this room, which we normally don't for transportation because we had so many people. So that's why they aren't here tonight, because they felt they had said their piece at the transportation committee and wanted this motion to go to NIFIA so they could start the process going.
Okay.
So that's how we got to where
So
we
there were a
are
lot of people at the transportation
tonight.
meeting.
Yes.
And they still need 75%.
Yeah.
Per block.
Signatures.
Per block.
So,
Right.
so you'll know.
And 85% of the 85% of the parking has to be impacted, and it's like a 6-month study. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money, which is why I thought the interest stage
They
made a
don't
lot of
study.
sense, because if there was any kind of solution that wasn't gonna cost the city a lot of time, money, that they would realize it, and I think in the interest stage, they're looking for a way out, like a reasonable solution that won't cost the city a lot of money.
It won't anyway, because
make
this
money.
program is all supported by its fees,
Yeah.
including the signage.
Okay, one more question.
And the 85% is, it's not a 6-month study. They come out and do it like over a week,
Okay,
despite what you're reading there.
well, maybe there should be a motion to change the LADOT website. Okay, thank you very much.
So lastly, the people that did pitch it to us are the community reps who are going to be the ones who are going to get the signatures. And they've already spoken to people within their community and feel they have a good shot in achieving the numbers. And they're not here tonight because I don't think they thought they needed to come. This is,
The other thing too is that should these sportsmen's residences move ahead, their problems will become even more dire. So what's bad right now, and I see it myself when I'm over there, is going to get worse.
just for context, there's another land use issue going on in Studio City where the people who live near it, they haven't even pulled, well, maybe they have pulled a permit. They're already talking about permit parking, and they haven't done anything yet.
Which one?
Harvard Westlake.
What?
Oh, yeah.
But I just want to say
Yeah.
also that maybe why people aren't here tonight is they're on overload between Sportsman's, Harvard Westlake, you know. And also there's going to be, with the Harvard Westlake project, there's going to be a ramp that's going to go right into their neighborhood. So I think they really want to get ahead of that.
Good point.
Because if that ramp is in their neighborhood, you can just walk right down Coldwater onto the ramp and into the neighborhood and then park there and, you know.
In that neighborhood, like Bel Air and
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
they're trying to get Harvard Westlake to pay for the preferential parking before they start
Yeah.
working.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on, and I think there's so much going on in the neighborhood. You could come to a meeting every night,
Some of us are.
practically.
Yeah.
And some of us are, yes.
Okay, we ready to vote on this? Let's vote.
Right, voting on item 10A, implements.
Yes.
Dick Cutler,
Yes.
Fiona Duffy, absent, Brenda Freed, absent, Ira Gold, absent, Jeff Harway,
Yes.
Julie Houlihan, absent, Scott Mendel,
Yes.
Chick Meehan.
Yep.
Brendan Marino.
No.
Oh. Richard Nitterberg,
Yes. Fascism.
Rencero,
No.
Adele Slutter,
Yes.
Adam Summer, absent, Alexa Steinberg.
Yes.
Ivy Velasco, yes, motion passes.
Thank you, Barry.
Thanks.
On to 11, Sustainability Committee.
Do you want to do it too?
After we read it, we'll go to. Okay.
You want me to read it?
Why don't you take blowers and I'll go for 1423?
Motion, the Board of Studio City Neighborhood Council supports Council File 23-0142 and requests Council President Paul Krikorian and Councilmember Nithya Raman take the following actions regarding the practice of unlawfully using gas blowers in Studio City. 1, explore methods for alternate enforcement that are able to respond to gas blower complaints and proactively respond to the issue of unlawful use of gas blowers. 2, revise the citation fee schedule to increase the deterrent element and direct citations to where they will have maximum effect, i.e. property owners and/or management companies. 3, develop an advertising and education program consistent with AB 1346 about the existing future incentive programs for the purchase of zero-emission tools. This program will focus on educational campaigns which will include A, Spanish language, digital and print media, as well as radio advertisements, B, property management companies, and C, neighborhood councils as key partners. This motion is to be submitted as a community impact statement to Council File 23-0142. And there's a link to the Assembly bill on air pollution of small off-road engines, and a link to the incentive programs with California Corps. I worked with a new board member, Drew Shaw, who had a lot of information on the programs, and also I called Walker to talk to him about what Raman's office was going to do about these things, and so the number 1 and 2 of the motion are what Raman is wanting to do, and so this will help her, you know, incentivize and look at basically creating programs, but also enforcing, using enforcement. And, you know, some of the things they're gonna, Ramon's office wants to do is sort of coordinate with Bureau of Street Services and Bureau of Safety to actually get some, what's the word?
Employees?
Enforcement of the existing law, which is, it's illegal to use gas blowers. So, and then there's a couple other interesting notes that some people have been able to report neighbors, and those neighbors get a little notice that says, if you don't stop doing it, you're gonna be fined, and then they stop doing it. So it's possible. I would like to work with the city council on education programs and maybe a way to, anyway, there's lots of ideas, but this is a start. So, any questions or comments?
We'll go to public comment now on that.
Barry?
Joanne? Oh, yeah, Joanne filled out a comment card, so she can go. Oh, you're 11B?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Barry?
So it's a great motion, except I don't know how you're ever going to get this enforced. LAPD's not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And who's going to come out and document it?
So what they're talking about at Nithya's office is street services. So we're talking about the people who give tickets.
Like meter maids.
Meter maids. Yeah.
So the infrastructure, the staffing is already there.
That's what
It's
they
a
told me.
question of saying, and so you might have someone that's assigned.
But they're going to say their staff is stretched too thin now. You know they are.
Well, but then they'd have to throw more money and get another staff, and someone would drive around. What Adele alluded to is when a homeowner, because the homeowner and the tradesperson are both liable for the fine. When the homeowner gets a notification from the city that you're in violation, if it happens again, you'll be fined, typically they fix it.
Well, I have an electric blower.
Yes, that's why no one stopped by there.
And I think this is going to be, as Adele was saying, really more about education and, even more importantly, coming up with a huge amount of money for people and doing it in Spanish buybacks, to buy back gas blowers and give them a lithium battery one. That's the only way you're ever going to stop it.
There's
The
30 or
only
30,
way.
there is money that's been allocated and gets spent apparently.
There's a huge program.
It's like $30 million a year.
But we don't see any of it in studios.
No, and that's the point. It's not well publicized.
Yeah.
And it's not, and partly because which is also kind of fun, these small off-road engines are referred to as SOARs in all these state legislative vernacular. So I thought someplace was having fun with that in legislation, that they have legislation. So it goes all the way up to forklifts. So many of the people that are taking this money are not individual guys with 3 blowers and a truck. It is someone that's actually getting other equipment out of the way. But Nithya's point is we can actually go out there, promote the program, get incentives for those people, educate them, start to get that relationship going, which would also make them more amenable to job training over the course of time. So you can start to build skills more than blow and go. You can start to build skills with native plants and other sort of sustainable, more resilient skills. So Walker's actually farther ahead of this than we thought he was.
He's the leaf blower guy at Nithya's.
It's actually one of the moments when we were very pleased to find out that the councilperson's office was ahead of us on the issue.
This was actually something that the city council got right in the late 90s. They realized that gas-powered leaf blowers were an environmental atrocity and an assault on anyone who is within 500 feet of one of these. And they just haven't figured out a way to enforce it. So we're not writing the code, we're just saying, with all the stuff we hear from the Green New Deal and our city council, all these other mandates that seem far more difficult, like banning gasoline cars or gas stoves or green buildings, all these things they're doing, or all solar and renewable power by a certain year. This seems so much simpler. And
I also have to say that I asked my gardener not to use a gas blower, and he went and bought an electric blower, and he uses it now. So it's not hard to enforce if you just ask somebody.
And an issue that Nithya is actually taking a stand on. What about that?
Brandon, did you have a question?
Yeah, again, I'm speaking to Scott, who's the guru on this, but in 1999, the technology wasn't there for electric leaf blowers that were powerful and efficient enough for gardeners to make a profit. The more houses they tend to in a day, that's their profit margin right there. And electric leaf blowers back in 99, if they even, I'm sure they existed, but the small ones, run out of juice like that, you had to wait to recharge it, and there goes your profit. But now, from what I understand, there are electric leaf blowers that are affordable and almost competitive with gas-powered leaf blowers. And if the city has the funds, then they can promise a buyback where you can take your old two-stroke, which is why they haven't banned two-stroke engines in the state of California is beyond me. What? Well, they're not allowed, but they mix gas with oil. I know. But that's for another subject. That could be something transportation talks about. But if you take it off your back here and they give you an electric leaf blower, maybe they subsidize the cost or it's a straight trade with optional batteries, and it's proven that these leaf blowers could do the same job as the gas-powered leaf blowers, then I don't know why I haven't heard about this program yet. I know it exists, I've heard it before. It sounds like it's too much common sense for it to be such a secret. So, do these electric leaf blowers exist now?
I got
Where
this.
I'm talking not something you can go buy at Home Depot, but commercial grade.
They do,
That could
but
take they can throw in the back of a truck and they can take the abuse. They do.
well, but
Home Depot even has commercial grade.
If you look at the link on California Core, you can go and find, because they're all subsidized electric tools.
Okay.
From leaf blowers to mowers to everything, and they're all subsidized for gardeners.
I just really wish this motion, 3 should have been 1, where the education comes first for an extended period of time, and like California Core and all that, get the word out there, worry about enforcing it later on, like what Barry said. The LAPD right now is the only one that can enforce it. It's like, what, $100 for the gardener and $100 for the homeowner, or something like that? There's not enough police officers to enforce this. They're not gonna do anything. So I think education is the cheapest and most effective way. Telling these gardeners, if they don't already know, you don't need this literally
It doesn't
gas-powered
matter,
engine strapped
Brandon,
to your
if it's
back.
first or not, because you didn't even click on it to look.
No, I did not.
So, just saying.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this now?
Yes.
Sure.
Oh, Jeff, go ahead.
I just don't think it's gonna be enforced. I mean, let's be quite honest. I talked to our senior lead officer at our public safety committee meeting, and that was one of the issues. What about then, Scott was there, what about the leaf blowers? Because we're told not to enforce it, we got other priorities. I mean, it's technically illegal to steal from the recycling bins, but I see it going on all the time. There's gonna be a $500 fine if you don't compost your green waste beginning properly in 2024. I just don't see how they're gonna enforce that. There are lots of things that just aren't being enforced. There's people openly shooting drugs in RVs in our area and in homeless encampments, and that's being overlooked. My kid was walking home from school about a year ago, and he saw people shooting up drugs right there at the Coldwater underpass, and that's not right. And nothing's being done about it. So I think we need to, if this passes, well, okay, but it's not going to be enforced. I really don't think it's. Hold on, I know you're jumping at the bit there, but I just don't think it's going to be enforced. And it's really a futile exercise when people are stealing from our stores on Ventura Boulevard and nothing's being done. They're shoplifting like crazy. They're locking up everything at the CVS store. They're locking up everything at the Rite Aids. Because people are just walking, and I see it every now and then at the drugstore, I with my own eyes, and nothing's being done about that. They call the cops, they're not going to show up. So, there are bigger fish to fry here. So I just don't think that it's going to be enforced, and it's rather futile.
Scott?
Yeah, Richard?
Yeah, well, I've mentioned this before, but it's still because the policemen who are the first line of defense are not citing on this area because they can't prove it. All you do is get to court and say, okay, prove it's fuel powered, prove it's gas powered. The city order said gas. Well, they said, no, there's no gas here. It's just methanol, or it's something else basically. And there's no litmus test as a point of enforcement, so they can't get anything back. All these had to be dismissed in court outside of the bench Van Nuys for a long, long time, decades. And nobody could prove it was gas powered leaf blower. And so it was dismissed one after the other because there's no proof that it is gas.
Can I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so this is already illegal and it's not being enforced. The reason that we're doing this is to get either another agency to enforce it, not the LAPD, it's not their job. We're not asking the police to deal with this. We're asking maybe the people who give us all the parking tickets, possibly, maybe they'll hire more parking ticket people. And then the other thing is the educational piece. And maybe like a direct mail campaign or something, just to bring awareness to this issue. That's it.
And just to speak to your issue, Jeffrey, when I spoke to Walker, he was saying that what Nithya's office wants to do is talk to LADOT and Street Services and Bureau of Safety to find a consortium of people who could actually enforce it and see if there is a way to do that. And if we raise the deterrent factor from $100 to like $500, and people get little notices like, hey, you're going to be fined $500 if you keep, using that, it'll start that education process of getting people not to have their gardeners use gas leaf blowers.
Abby, did you have a question?
I do, just a comment more than anything. So I hear the word illegal, so I went online because this is also kind of new for me, so I'm trying to educate myself. And it says the California Air Resources Board has finally clamped down on gasoline-powered leaf blowers by banning the sale of new machines starting 2024. Pasadena, the city of Pasadena, as of April 28, the leaf blowers are prohibited. It doesn't say legal, so I don't know if there's a big difference there, lawyers?
Yes, sir.
Lawyers here. A new state law bans the sale of gas-powered leaf blowers by the start of 2024 to help achieve 100% zero emission in California from small off-road engines, soar by 2035. So, I don't know. Is it the same, illegal and
Regulations will never say that something is illegal. They'll prohibit something, and if you violate, you're violating the law, so therefore it is illegal. That's kind of how it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just need a clarification
Yeah,
on the word
absolutely.
And I'll just close with this. One of the very cheap ways to enforce this that doesn't involve law enforcement is they're considering modeling this on what's happening in New York for the ordinances against idling trucks. There's two different standards of idling trucks in New York, whether you're near a school or whether you're just anywhere else. And you can download the official New York approved app and you photograph it using that app, and it puts a timestamp on it, and you get the license plate and showing the truck is idling, and it gets uploaded, and they get fined, and you get a piece of the action. And there's a huge incentive for trucks now to not sit there idling for whatever it was. Imagine something so simple for leaf blowers. Your neighbor's
It
gardeners.
has to be uploaded video.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it can't be, well, maybe there is a way to doctor it, but it's a government app, and it uploads as it's being recorded, so you can't take it home and edit it. So there are going to be more creative ways. I'm not usually a big fan of any private action, but I think the leaf blower, I can't stand them. And I've had electric since the late 90s, mower, trimmer, everything. So, you ready to vote?
Oh, one moment, because my page moved.
Do they clean the inside of the bathrooms with the leaf?
It makes my neighbor smid.
Yeah, the toilet paper.
I've used mine inside, the leaf blower.
Oh, absolutely. It gets dog hair
Yeah,
out from under
it
the
works.
couch. It's crazy. I just got one of the new ones for Father's Day. It actually has recoil. When you hit the trigger, the thing goes backwards. It's 160 miles an hour coming out of the muzzle of the thing.
I have blown stuff off my patio
Oh, I
using,
blew
you do have
stuff
to be
over
careful.
my neighbors had mats, the whole thing, shoes, you know.
We ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's
Voting
vote.
on item 10A, Kim Clements.
I'm going
Are
with
we
a
on
no.
11A?
11.
Oh,
11A.
sorry. I told you my page moved. Yes, thank you.
We're on 11A.
11A. Sorry, my page moved. 11A, thank you. Kim Clements.
We talked about it before, I'm still a no on this.
Okay, thank you. Dean Cutler.
Yes.
Fiona Duffy, absent. Miranda Freed, absent. Ara Gold, absent. Jeff Harwick.
No.
Julie Houlihan, absent. Scott Mendel.
Yes.
Cheap Meehan.
Yes.
Brandon Marino.
Yes.
Richard Nitterberg.
Yes.
Ren Sarah.
Yes.
Adele Slater.
Yes.
Adam Summer, absent. Alexa Steinberg.
Yes.
Abby Velasco. Okay, yes.
Did
Motion
Joanne want to come up and talk about 11B?
passes.
You have to vote first on it, right?
We're on 11A.
11A, I'm sorry,
I'm as
yes.
anxious as you are.
Passes.
Passes.
Sorry.
Now we're on 11B, who's gonna read it?
Oh, to 11B. The motion, this is back again by popular demand. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council requests Council President Paul Krikorian and Council Member Nithya Raman issue a motion in support of AB 1423, which prohibits the installation of synthetic surfaces on school athletic fields that contain regulated toxic chemicals, PFAS. You're up.
Then I'll go to public comment. I can do a minute and a half on this. Timekeeper, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to point out some facts about I call them forever toxic chemicals as opposed to the PFAS. It seems too polite. And I did some research and I realized that the reason why it's sometimes more problematic is because you can't in fact get insurance for any liability that may arise from using these materials and however you want to use them. And that the only exception seems to be that the materials are, quote, inherently dangerous. So it seems tautological to have those two situations before you when you try to make decisions on the PFAS. So what I was going to ask people is what sources during your discussion, if you've read any independent sources, would you tell me so I can look them up? And then who have you spoken to about what your position is or how you formulated your position? So I can kind of follow up and see whether or not there's some way to resolve this discrepancy, because the way I read it is, doesn't matter how you feel about it, doesn't matter if it's illegal, you can insure yourself, and then you've certainly got yourself litigation. So if we have children who get injured, on these athletic fields that you're talking about in other places, and I hope they don't start putting them in the parks. What's the remedy? That's it. Those are my comments.
Okay,
My
thank you.
requests, actually.
Anybody else from the public want to talk about Assembly Bill 1423, the banning of PFAS that's used in artificial turf?
Oh, it did pass, by the way. That bill passed the Assembly and it's pending in the Senate.
Yeah. Hasn't passed, but it's,
It got voted on.
yeah, no, it has to, the governor has to sign it. We
No,
understand.
it got out of the Assembly. And now it's before the Senate. Yes, the governor needs to sign it.
Not seeing any more hands from the public. Board comments, questions? Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, the motion says it prohibits the installation of synthetic surfaces on school athletic fields, but it's a little bit broader than that.
I'm speaking about it more broadly.
Any public entity, including a charter city, charter county, city or county, public or private school, public or private institution of higher learning, although they do carve out the University of California. They're, Cal and UCLA can go ahead and still use these fields.
UCLA has ripped up.
Hold on, I'm speaking.
Okay.
And then in 2025, no person or entity shall manufacture, distribute, sell, or offer for sale in the state any covered service that contains regulated PFAS. So I said this, I think, last time. We got VNSO that's got some nice turf fields. In fact, I was there this past week and my daughter plays soccer there. And, I checked the field. Nothing's coming out of the ground. The kids run on cleats. They're not rolling in the PFAS. There's another field over in NoHo at Witsit. They just put new PFAS or turf, I don't even know if it's PFAS, but turf fields in. Most of the schools in the area have PFAS or turf fields. So it's going to cost millions and millions of dollars to tear these things up when the science isn't really settled on it.
Well,
Hold on. And the EPA has not banned it. I mean, right now there's a rule going through the EPA that deals with studies and reports dealing with groundwater and PFAS. And if you look at the law itself, I mean, it bans the presence of PFAS in any product that's above 1 part per million. It used to be even higher amount that was permitted, but that's even tiny. So I don't know, this is a lot to deal with. I don't think the science is settled. I don't think there were reports. The EPA said, this is bad, we forbid you to do it, then that's a different story. But they haven't done that. And it's gonna cost millions and millions for these schools and remedial measures to rip up these fields and do a redo. And Gregorian was happy to get those turf fields built at VNSO. He was there at the opening ceremony to great fanfare. And the local communities appreciate it because they're used all the time. So I just think this is a little much. I don't think we need to be weighing in this, especially when the science is not settled.
Ready? Sure. It's not talking about tearing anything up. It's talking about don't put new ones in. And when the existing ones have to be replaced, you have to put something in that doesn't have in it a chemical that has been recognized and regulated. So this isn't saying all PFAS, it's only those, there's thousands of PFAS. The chemists are trying to figure out what they've done. There are some which are already regulated. This bill says the stuff that's already regulated and has been taken out of baby clothing, lipstick, cookware, other housewares, if we know it's bad and taking it out of those other consumer products, since these synthetic surfaces have it, and it's not just turf, it's also the black crumb rubber stuff that goes under the jungle gyms. That's actually a bigger problem. And the tracks that go around the soccer fields, for example, that's also a plastic surface. So it would be all of the plastic surfaces. It's saying only don't use the ones that we're already saying are bad. My guess is with the other 30 that are being looked at, or 17, my guess is the other ones that are being bad would be added to this as well. So it's saying, don't use the stuff that has an element that we know is bad for a new installation. When you replace the existing installation, put something down that's safer, or at least doesn't have what we know is toxic. So it's that piece of it. The science.
You couldn't repair it though. Even after 2025, you could not repair it.
Well, they don't really need to be repaired, right?
I don't know.
It doesn't, well, if it wears out enough to be repaired, you're gonna replace it, and at that point, it would have to be replaced with.
How long do they last?
Depends on the use, but 5 to, they call it 10 years, they actually don't in our climate, just because the sun's so intense. So probably 7 years. Julian Bull at Campbell Hall told me at 5, he's starting to really work at getting it replaced. One of the Harvard Westlake fields is 7. I believe it's the one over the hill, but those are littler kids. It's not used as much. That one's holding up better. And it could also be that side of Mulholland versus this side of, it could be that benign. As far as our illustrious city, the city is not showing leadership, right? You can see which way the research is going. So we're finding that as subsequent studies come out, it starts to look more and more clear that having more and more of these compounds in our lives is not a good thing. The kids that play on the field aren't rolling around on it, but the cleats on their soccer shoes kick it up. If you hold a new piece of turf and an old piece of turf in your hand, 40% of the material is gone from this older piece of turf. It went someplace. So the kid's kicking it, the kid's spinning on it, wears it down mechanically. The light from the sun breaks it down as it gets hot.
They clean them too.
Pardon?
They clean them too, so.
With chemicals.
Part of the
And so that makes it an aerosol. So that means it lands on the kid's arms, they inhale it, it gets in their mouth, it does get in their systems. But we're not addressing those issues, those parental issues. All we're saying is there are compounds identified as by the state to be unhealthy. These artificial turf surfaces, these synthetic surfaces, they're called now. So it's not just turf. These bad compounds exist in this bad product. Don't put it on the ground anymore. Find something else. Now, the theory is, from a market dynamic, is that the manufacturers of synthetic turf, since they have a market share, should be able to come up with a product that doesn't have these banned compounds.
But have they yet?
That's part of the problem, is when you extrude plastic through the extruder, it gets stuck. What makes it actually run through are the lubricating compounds, which are the PFAS.
So there is no equivalent replacement that does not contain PFAS.
They're going for other PFAS that have not been studied at this point, which are supposed to be benign. But yes, to create a plastic field, you need to use a compound as a lubricating agent in the manufacture, which ultimately will become free from the compound, will never break down, and will always be potentially lethal. So as far as the city, they need to look ahead of, shoot ahead of the duck, I believe is the way that I actually phrased it the other day. We can see which way the research is going, take leadership and move ahead of it. The reason that Paul is not excited about this is this research is really 36 to 60 months old. A lot of these electeds have been getting favor in the community by taking neighborhoods that have historically been underserved And that's where the environmental injustice comes from. And we're gonna fix that by giving you a field. It looks beautiful, and they do look great from afar, right? And if that is in fact exporting to those communities that have previously been maligned with environmental injustice, and now we're trying to make it better by shipping off cancer to them, that creates a political problem. So you're never gonna have an elected say, I made a mistake, we have to take this stuff out. We're not gonna see leadership by the elected. It's not gonna happen.
But it hasn't been banned by the EPA.
They're working on it, they're behind it, and it is coming up quickly. But it has been banned in all children's clothing, all cosmetics.
And it's different, you're putting it on your skin. You're not running out on cleats for a brief period of time.
It gets aerosol, and so, for example, let's say you were gonna put a plastic field in the middle of a neighborhood, and those kids ran over and they had a 2-hour soccer practice, and they got back in mommy's Tesla and they went away. You still have the debris from the field floating in the air. So the people that were living around that field would be receiving that material kicked off the ground in the air. Also, when the kids were gone and the maintenance people were there, and they were running the Zamboni machines or whatever it is that they use to clean that turf, they're kicking that up as well. You're creating more atmospheric pollution that people will get.
But are there any studies that show that this kick-up that you're characterizing has a health impact?
Well, the compounds are regulated for a reason.
But there haven't been any studies which show the aerosolization of the so-called PFAS compounds into the air that affects the health of others.
But we know that the compound is regulated, right? So.
Somewhat.
Right. Well, enough to be banned from consumer products. So what the bill is saying is, if it's good enough to be banned from babies' clothing, come up with an alternative. And that's what the bill says. So you can't put something down that we know has these compounds that are regulated. Find an alternative.
Brandon, then I'll make a comment.
Hey, just after it says issue a motion in support of AB 1423, I was just reading it and I was reading exactly what Jeff said. It's not just about school athletic fields that contain regulated toxic chemicals. It's far broader than that. I'm not comfortable voting for this motion if it says which prohibits the installation of synthetic surfaces on school athletic fields that contain regulated toxic chemicals. It sounds like a shot at Harvard Westlake. And this AB 1423 isn't just about school fields, it's about a lot of things. It's about exactly what Jeff said. It just sounds, I don't know, it doesn't sound genuine to me. I know what you guys are talking about, but it just, that last sentence bothers me a lot. I wish you would take it out. Probably it's too late, we're probably not gonna be able to amend it, but just say in support of AB 1423, I'm okay with it. I think AB 1423 is a good idea, it's a good start. But that second line just sounds like a Harvard Westlake shot, and I'm not comfortable with it. Thank you.
So would you want to propose a motion?
No, I'm just gonna vote no on it.
So we're still talking. So my problem with this, which has been said but needs to be said again, is the state wants to ban it from everybody in the state except the state. They get to use it. I would vote no on this just because of that, just because of the exemption. It's so bad, but the state can do it. I just find that to be completely absurd. Secondly, the bill was just amended, and California has something called a Department of Toxic Substances Control. I'd like to see what they come up with, because when you read the analysis of this, there's the things about orphan codes, there's nothing about testing, and as we've seen with other projects, we've seen the same vendor test artificial turf and come up with no PFAS, and then come up with PFAS because it's a different type of test. There's nothing in here about testing, there's nothing in here about disposal, and the people most of the arguments that I hear against artificial turf is not PFAS, it's heat island, and there's no nature allowed to grow on it, and the PFAS sounds like almost an excuse, because at the same time, you have Senate Bill 499, which is also making its way through, and that will require schools to rip out their artificial turf for heat-related reasons. So when you read these two together, you realize that artificial turf is looking to be banned, not because of PFAS, but because it's artificial. What this also doesn't address, and which Jeff was talking about, is it will be ripped out because it has to be replaced with something completely different. You can't pull up artificial turf and plant natural grass. It requires a whole process. So at some point, when the field can no longer be replaced with another batch of artificial turf, it is ripped out. It just gets ripped out. Go ahead, Brent.
Very quickly, you said it was amended on the 14th of June. In the Senate, this is an AAB bill, which means it's going back to the Assembly. From what I understand, if it's amended in Senate, it has to go back to Assembly. So it's gonna have to start the process all over again. Correct me if I'm wrong on
You're
that.
wrong.
No, I'm incorrect on that?
You're incorrect.
Okay, so.
It's going to be heard in the Assembly on the 28th of this month.
Okay,
So the amendment was, I wrote to Chavo's head of whatever, and he explained that the amendment was to give deference to the Department of Toxic Substances because they've been working for a long time on the artificial turf.
Yeah.
But they're moving much more slowly than the Senate and the Assembly can move. And so what will happen is if the bill passes and goes to the Newsom and gets passed, and then they come up with something after that, their, whatever they come up will supersede the bill.
okay.
So it's just in deference to them, that's all that is. That was an amendment in deference to the work that the DOT, or the Department of Toxic Substances has already done. And so that's all, it's pro forma.
Thank you.
Right.
I'd like to see what the Department of Toxic Substances comes up with when dealing with toxic
They
substances.
may never, absolutely.
And not
They may
this
never come up
this
with anything.
poorly written state legislation. I just find the exemption, I mean, it's not toxic when you're on a California, University of California field.
No, there's a reason for that, which is California, University of California is exempt from state laws. So they don't come under the state laws, which is, I don't know.
What are they, an Indian tribe?
Yeah, maybe.
No, it's pick and choose. They're under Prop 65, but then all of a sudden with this, because of the hundreds of millions of dollars of artificial turf, they're exempt now. Isaac Bright, who's my representative, I had this, because I watched almost 16 hours of their hearings, which is very interesting. That's all I can say about it. But yeah, but that was the reason why. But they are covered under other things that state of California does regulate, like Prop 65.
Right. Also, just a note that the Global Health Organization says that PFAS, or forever chemicals, are highly toxic when inhaled and moderately toxic when ingested. So the air that's coming up off the fields is very toxic. And the things that it causes are endocrine problems. It can cause diabetes, it can cause infertility, it can cause, there are a lot of physical problems from PFAS. And that's why there's this movement in the Assembly, in the Senate right now, to ban the artificial fields.
To ban PFAS,
To ban
not artificial fields.
PFAS
That's a
in-
different bill, because
Right.
ultimately, I think you said the quiet part out loud. The goal is to ban artificial turf. If the companies that make the product say, we have a new PFAS, and we have testing and it's not there, will the environmentalists say, well, okay, we like artificial turf now? Or will they still be against it for the reasons I read in the other bill that's going to require schools to pull it out with
Due to the heat island
no regard, yes, because there's other issues with, so again, I'm not believing that the goal is to ban the turf because it's got PFAS. It seems to me that the turf is looking to be banned based on the other legislation that's going through simultaneously. By the way, there's a ban on the ban. A city is not allowed to ban artificial turf in residences, and that's also going to be overturned because they got it so wrong. The Department of Water and Power was paying you to put this in. And now they just realized that that PFAS is bad. So when the manufacturer comes up with the new PFAS, and in 20 years, they're going to say, oh, that one's bad too. So that's why I want to hear from the Department of Toxic Substances, where I hope some scientists work and will create some type of legislation that deals with the miles and miles of this that's being pulled up and thrown in the landfills.
Can they just
where it
use
reaches-
WD-40 for the exclusion process and end it? I mean,
So
nothing sticks to
I don't want to keep talking, I'll stop.
Ready to vote? Yep.
Anybody else have their
Okay.
2 cents?
Yeah, and for grass and soil, but go on.
Can I say something? I want to thank everybody for their comments. They've been really useful and insightful. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, voting item 11B, Kim Clements,
No.
Dean Cutler,
No.
Fiona Duffy, absent, Brenda Freed, absent, Ira Gold, absent, Jeff Harwick,
No.
Julie Houlihan, absent, Scott Mendel,
No.
Chip Meehan,
Yes?
Brennan Marino,
No.
Richard Niederberg,
No,
Brent Sarah,
Yes.
Adele Slater,
Yes.
Adam Summer, absent, Alexa Steinberg,
No.
Ira Velasco, no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 no's. 1, 2, 3
Four no's.
yes. Motion fails.
4 yeses, you mean.
I mean, yes is yes.
Thank you, Sustainability Committee. Item 12, good of the order. Anyone have anything to say? Go ahead, Brandon.
I would like to ask the president of this board to make sure Adam Summers shows up at the next meeting so I can actually see he's actually a real person.
It's not on the next.
We're done.
Well-
This is the last meeting.
No, we have a special meeting, then in July we show up and we're replaced by the new board. We have to show up for, we have to show up in the July meeting and then we're replaced by the new board.
So we also have the special.
That's right.
Adam, by the way, RSVP'd that he was coming tonight.
That he's coming tonight?
Yeah.
So there's a meeting tomorrow and a meeting Monday?
Monday.
No, Friday
Friday.
is ad hoc and Monday is board.
The special.
Special.
Any other good of the orders? Yes, Jeff.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, last year we voted on a motion opposing Jennifer Valdivia as a bonk commissioner because she had no neighborhood council experience. Her father was a big contributor to Garcetti, I think. They were, stuff like that. So we opposed it. She was appointed nonetheless, but I noticed looking at a bonk agenda the other day that her name was off the masthead. And then if you go to the website, she's no longer there. So I emailed Lorenzo to inquire if she was gone or not, but apparently she is. So I think our wisdom in
did it.
opposing her.
It's your fault.
Did they just cancel another bonk meeting?
Yes.
They did, yes.
We can't even get the meeting straight.
That's all. I just want to say we were wise to oppose it.
Thank you for that. I just want to add on number 12, Richard, it's good to have you back. We missed you.
Yes. See you.
Anybody else? Absent objections, adjourning the meeting at 9:49 PM. Thank you.